Hello and welcome to Hindsighting, where we discuss all the movies to win the Best Picture Oscar and try to figure out if this picture truly is the best or is time rendered a different verdict. I'm Edward Clow. My guest today is the author of Club Deception, High and Dry, Bruised, and Fame Adjacent, novels for teens and adults that have been translated into 6 languages and often depict the entertainment industry. Under the pen name Hadley Hartwell, her newest project is a cozy mystery series set in an Enneagram personality class that meets in a cat cafe. Sarah Skilton, welcome to Hindsighting.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this.
As am I. And today we're hindsighting the best picture of 1988, Rain Man. From 8 nominations, it also won Oscars for Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Original Screenplay. It was nominated against The Accidental Tourist, Dangerous Liaisons, Mississippi Burning, and Working Girl. So Sarah, this whole season is about the 80s. We're talking about the 80s, and we're of a similar age. And to me, I think the 80s is a really undersung decade for a bunch of reasons. I think it's looked at unfairly as kind of like this sort of Philistine time. It's a time of like blockbusters and Spielberg, and it's dismissed because it doesn't have the grit of the 70s that come before it or the 90s that come after it. I don't think that that's fair, because I think the 80s is a time where there really was something for everybody. What we're talking about today, there was dramas for adults made by major studios. The movie we're talking about today, we'll get into in a few minutes, was the highest grossing movie of the year that it came out. Unfathomable now. So you had dramas made by big studios for adults. This is the best decade ever, in my opinion, for comedies. We got the great, great comedies. The SNL guys are getting their own movies. Just a boom time for comedies. It is absolutely the best time for action movies, action and adventure movies. Horror is very strong here. And all these things are made for the most part by major studios.
Yeah.
That's what's so incredible to me, is that like, this is, because there are no independents yet. I mean, there is independent film going on, and the year that we're talking about now, 1988, we already have Jim Jarmusch and Spike Lee. We're a year away from Do the Right Thing. So independent film is about to kind of blossom and cross over into the mainstream. We're just a couple years away from that. But in this moment in time, we're mainly talking about big studio movies, and there really is something for everybody. Kids, adults, everything in between. So I guess I'll throw this to you. When you think of the 80s, or 80s movies more specifically, what do you think about?
Well, it's really interesting what you were just saying, because I could have opened with that statement of specifically 1988, which is the year we're looking at, had all the things you just mentioned. When I was looking at what else came out just in 1988, it was Die Hard, Working Girl, Beaches, Beetlejuice, which they just made a sequel to that like 2 years ago. Like, it's still in the zeitgeist. It's still a huge part of pop culture.
My daughter just went and saw the play. With my wife, and I took my daughter to see the sequel you just mentioned, Beetlejuice, and my daughter's 10.
Watched it. He was watching the original then. It inspired him to go back. He's been watching a lot of like 80s and 90s movies. We had The Accused. We had U2 Rattle and Hum. Scrooged, Naked Gun. You mentioned horror. There was Child's Play. There was comedy, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Steve Martin. Gorillas in the Mist, A Fish Called Wanda, Coming to America, Running on Empty. And Michelle Pfeiffer was in 3 movies.
Oh my God,
3 movies. And they were all amazing.
What were the 3? So, Liaisons, Married to the Mob. Oh, and Tequila Sunrise.
Yes.
How could I forget Tequila Sunrise?
Perfect, exactly.
Yes.
And then
Michelle.
she blew up the next year. That's when she got her first Oscar, I believe. I don't remember what it was for.
She didn't win an Oscar. She's nominated this year for Liaisons, and she's nominated the next year for Fabulous Baker Boys. She's one of those never ones.
Oh, I thought she won for Fabulous Baker Boys.
No, she was nominated and did not win.
Interesting.
To step on next week a little bit, Jessica Tandy wins for Driving Miss Daisy, a movie we're going to cover next week.
Okay.
And but no, this is a Pfeiffer heavy year. And
one more thing, Who Framed Roger Rabbit also came out. And that just, like, if that was an encapsulation of the decade just in 1988, that would have been an incredible amount of films for a 5-year run. But for 1 year, it was almost an embarrassment of riches when I look back. And that's not what I would have said before I looked into it for this podcast. I would have said, oh, okay, the 80s, that would be John Hughes and Indiana Jones. That's what I would think of. But I mean, that's part of it, but it's a tiny fraction of what was on offer. And it made me want to go back and rewatch a ton of these things, because they did still have such an oversized shadow that it casts on movies, and these were all huge releases. I mean, to imagine that there was something of this quality coming out every single weekend is crazy to me. It's unprecedented, I feel like.
Yeah, we have a concurrent with the series that we're talking about now. We have a series called 1981ers where we talk about specific movies from 1981. So by the time we're recording this, we will have already done shows on Blowout and Modern Romance and a bunch of movies before and after this. But we could just as easily do 1988ers or 1987ers, 1986ers. I mean,
Yes.
this decade. I picked 81 for sort of nostalgic reasons. You can listen to those episodes and sort of, the first one just aired just this past week as we're recording this. But you can very easily, as you just said, do 1988, and we could just talk about each of these movies individually.
Like 100 episodes of your podcast.
Exactly, and probably would
Right.
never run out. And,
Right.
and some of these movies we are going to go back and talk about under the umbrella of a different series. So,
Yeah.
But another movie, yeah, I mean, you rattled off a bunch of the movies that I think are so great. I'll rattle off two more, which aren't
Yeah.
going to be in my spotlight, that I think are sort of lost to time. One is a movie called Shoot to Kill with Sidney Poitier and Tom Berenger,
Oh.
which is like a sort of an action thriller where Sidney Poitier is like I won't say Stallone because that reduces him too much, but that's a really cool movie. And then there's a movie called Talk Radio that Oliver Stone makes.
Oh, I remember that one.
In between
Okay.
Wall Street and Born on the 4th of July,
Wow.
which is a really good movie that is probably maybe the most obscure Oliver Stone movie, or at least in that stretch when he was like a significant filmmaker, when he was really just at his height. And there's so many. I mean, and I'll sort of pre-plug this. If you go onto Letterboxd when this episode airs, I will have my 1988 movies ranked.
Oh, great.
Like I do for 87. I've done that for every year in this decade. Something I did not do for the 2000s. Let's move on to Rain Man.
All right.
This is a big movie for this decade.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Rain Man, but first some trivia and some stats. So you probably knew this one. You maybe remember when this happened. So for in-flight viewing, several airlines deleted the sequence in which Raymond Babbitt reels off statistics on airline accidents, except for Qantas. They even promoted one of the movie's writers to first class once he traveled on their airline. So I guess Qantas,
Oh my gosh.
one of the writers, was on the.
That's
so
hilarious.
that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Qantas stat as of this recording is still true. Apparently, they have
Wow.
never lost a plane.
38 years after.
As of 2026, as we're recording this. Hopefully, I didn't jinx it. Although I can't be the only one jinxing it. This was very cool. This was shot mostly in sequential order, following the actual road trip that the characters take.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's rare, isn't it?
It's very rare to do that unless it's a movie that's like set all in one place, like a play. Like if it's an all in one house, you can shoot in order. Or if an actor's like losing weight or gaining weight or something.
Okay.
Very hard to do. I would imagine they probably just traveled west. They probably just did this trip from Cincinnati to LA.
Oh, I love
So
that.
they probably were just, I mean, it's a very cool way to do this because we're going to talk about this. One of the things I love about this movie is that they're clearly in these locations.
Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. This is a little long, I may cut it, but I thought it was really nice. So Sir Michael Caine has revealed that Tom Cruise's performance in Rain Man was one of his personal favorites of all he'd ever seen on film. Caine found out somewhat late in his adult life that he had a brother he'd never been told about, who had lived most of his life in a mental hospital with a debilitating diagnosis of epilepsy.
Oh my gosh.
With great sincerity, Caine said, Tom's performance was beautifully done. He went on to say that Dustin had the showy part. Tom's required great discipline and a responsibility to draw the viewer into Raymond's point of view, as well as portray the painful acceptance of the limitations his brother's condition placed on their level of familial intimacy. Thought that was nice, and I did not attempt the Caine accent there. This actually, I think, is an incredible stat. This film first opened with a very disappointing 6 million opening weekend, but in the following weeks, it generated so much word of mouth,
Oh.
it actually became the #1 movie of all of the entire year.
Wow.
So all the movies you rattled off, Coming to America, Roger Rabbit,
That's wild.
Rain Man is the highest grossing movie of 1988.
We were in the mood for something feel good.
Yeah. This is the highest grossing film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture until it was surpassed 2 years later by Dances with Wolves. This blew my mind. So we're recording this 2 days after the Academy Awards just happened. So we're recording this 2 days after the One Battle After Another Oscars just happened. And I bring this up for this reason. When Dustin Hoffman's Best Actor Oscars presented to him by Michael Douglas, the words that Michael Douglas read were, "And the Oscar goes to," which was the first time anybody had ever said, "And the Oscar goes to," and not, "And the winner is." and the Academy switched it to that,
Oh.
told its presenters to do that. And so this has been in effect since 1989.
What was the basis for them agreeing to that switch?
I think in the Oscar goes to it sort of I would imagine that it undercut the competitive nature of it. And the winner is, instead of saying
Okay.
like, here are 4 people who are about to lose,
Yeah.
it's saying like, here's the person who's going to win.
Like here, the Oscar goes to, it doesn't mean it's the definitive, like, this is the best one. It's that the Oscar goes to, which
Yeah.
kind of gives it a little bit more nuance of like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm reading too much into it.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's a way to sort of mitigate the competitive nature of the Oscars, which is
Yeah.
otherwise impossible.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. So I don't know if Michael Douglas just said that, if he just kind of like had it in his head to say that, or if he got flustered. I haven't seen the clip. This I thought was really interesting. The movie that's playing on the hotel television when Charlie and Suzanne are having sex is The Sweet Smell of Success, which is heavily referenced in Barry Levinson's movie Diner, where there's a character who can literally recite every line from that movie. I don't know if you remember that movie, but there's a character who all he says is lines from the movie. And that movie's set in 1959, so there's no video. So that character would have had to go and see the movie Sweet Smell of Success like 1,000 times. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no, movies aren't playing on television quite
Right.
yet.
You don't have your Walkman with the TV as
exactly.
Raymond does.
Even
Yeah.
the tech in this movie that we're
Right.
talking about is so high tech compared to what that would have been then.
Right. The only thing I remember from Diner, and you can cut this, is them going to the movies and the boys being like, it's my dick in a box. And me being horrified as like a young woman watching that and being like, how, what, no, what,
yes,
what, yeah.
No,
that's the only thing I remember. Even though there's so much more going on in that movie, I'm sure, but that was my takeaway, and I was just
that's
horrified.
fair. I think it's a great movie you should revisit.
Yes,
that's
but
yes,
also fair.
I think that would stick with me too. This marked the first time in over a decade that the highest grossing film of the year won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Last time was Rocky 12 years earlier.
Wow.
This is the only Best Picture nominee not nominated in either of the supporting acting categories that year. Which, yeah.
Was it scandalous at the time that Tom Cruise didn't get a nom, or
I don't know.
much?
We're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
I definitely want to get into Tom Cruise a lot. I don't know. Well, actually, we can talk about it briefly here. My understanding, having read an article about it yesterday, was that he wasn't really nominated for any of the precursors. So I don't think he was in that conversation. We're going to talk about the Best Actor race later on in the show.
Okay.
So I don't think it was a surprise snub. I don't think he was nominated for any Golden Globes or Critics Awards or something. So
got it.
I'm going to say no.
Maybe this was the beginning of him sort of trying to pivot into slightly more wider variety of characters or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Cruise and Hoffman ad nauseum. 2 more things. At 2 hours and 13 minutes, it is number 58 in ascending length of Best Pictures, number 59 if you count Sunrise, which we'll litigate if that counts in a later episode. It is number 8 on the box office list of Best Pictures with a worldwide gross of $412 million. Now, quick note about this to my listeners. As we're recording this, as I said a minute ago, the previous Academy Awards have already happened. So a lot of these stats and some of these Best Picture winners might not be accurate. I have not yet recorded Out of Africa, which is 3 years before this. So that one I updated. So these stats might have shifted a little bit just in terms of the length in the box office, because now we have a new Best Picture winner. And at the time I recorded them, that didn't exist yet. So let's talk about Rain Man.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about one thing really quickly that I think is interesting. I always forget this movie was made by United Artists, a studio that doesn't exist anymore. And it was at this point MGM/UA, which also doesn't exist. So United Artists was a studio that was started by Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, and it was run by artists. And they did everything from, obviously, the Chaplin movies. This is from 1919 on. They did Kubrick's early movies. They did James Bond. They did The Pink Panther. They did West Side Story. They're one of the few studios, I think, to have 3 Best Picture winners in a row, which would be Cuckoo's Nest, Rocky, and Annie Hall, Bing Bang Boom. And the studio that doesn't exist anymore because a movie called Heaven's Gate in 1980 bankrupted it.
Oh, no.
And I actually co-wrote a whole script about that. And we're not going to get too much into that this time. But I just thought this was kind of cool that, like, this was a little bit of like the old UA to put out this movie that is very character driven.
Yeah.
And and a box office hit. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to throw that out. But let's talk about the movie itself. I saw this when I was a kid. I don't know if you did.
I did.
So
In
I
fact,
always-
I hadn't seen it since then.
Oh,
So I had my
wow.
memories of what I thought it was
that's amazing.
were incredibly different from what it actually is.
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
I'm more up on this than I normally am, but I've had that experience on this podcast a few times,
Mhm.
particularly with some things from the 2000s. I wasn't a kid then, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I heard, I didn't re-listen to it, but I listened to Barry Levinson's commentary, not for this viewing, but I listened to it years ago, and he said this interesting thing talking right about the beginning. The reason he used Aiko Aiko for the opening credits was he just liked the beat.
Okay.
He just thought, okay, let's start this movie with kind of like something like
Mhm.
up and kind of fun. I didn't know this was a cover. I didn't know that this was a song that existed before this.
Oh,
My
no, I didn't
understand-
either.
Yeah, I think it's an old song that this group covered. I don't know if it's for the movie or I can't speak to, but yeah, it's a real trip coming off our last Best Picture, which was The Last Emperor,
Mhm.
and how just tonally different this movie is. And I think that goes on all through the 80s, where you go from like these sort of smaller character-driven movies like Ordinary People in terms of
Yeah.
endearment to these things like Gandhi
Sweeping,
and Amadeus
historical. Yeah.
and Out of Africa, almost every other movie. But there's a real pendulum swing
Oh, yeah.
between like true stories and things that are just intimate character things, and obviously this comes in between Last Emperor, which is a huge epic movie, and Driving Miss Daisy, which I think character-wise is sort of on par with this, but it's
Yeah.
still a period piece,
Mhm.
still not a true story, but still looking at history in a certain way. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of like how this movie starts, and I'll start here and then I'll throw it to you.
Okay.
And this is gonna be kind of the thing I go back to. I think there's something kind of brave about this movie,
Mhm.
and what's brave about this movie is that Tom Cruise
Is an unbelievable dick the
he is
entire time.
such a
Start
fucking
to
prick.
finish. Like 90% of the movie, he's insane.
I don't know that I go start to finish, but certainly in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'll push back on the start to
Okay,
finish part.
all right.
But certainly in
We'll
this
get there.
first scene, I think he is such a fucking prick.
Yes.
And I think it's a little bit speaking to the times, because he is playing a yuppie.
Yeah.
He is playing, I mean, he's 26 years old
I mean,
in
the
this movie.
sports jacket
Yeah.
and the sunglasses and his hair is
car.
so vintage 80s. It was perfect. I
Yes.
was like, I was watching it and I was like, that is the Tom Cruise of the 80s that is the iconic image of him.
Right.
Playing the dick, playing,
But I think
the
he's
hard-ass
never,
guy.
I think he's never, but I don't know. This is what I think is sort of brave about this. And I think this is something, and I'm going to talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's either an obliviousness or a bravery here. I'm going to
Mhm.
credit him with being brave, because the movie he makes just before this is Cocktail, which is an absurd movie. Really fun, really
Yeah.
absurd. But he plays a very similar character.
Yeah.
This guy obsessed with money. He's a little bit
Mhm.
more blue collar. You get the sense that Charlie's got some money, whether he's living on his credit cards or whatever. He's driving. I don't know what that car is. I think it's a BMW. I think it's a Ferrari, but like it's like a Ferrari we don't see a lot. Obviously he's got really nice clothes and everything. But yeah, that this scene of him hustling.
Yeah.
Him on the phone.
It's riveting.
It's riveting, and I think he's such a fucking prick, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's an accident.
No.
But even the way there's that insert shot of him clapping his hands,
Yeah.
which is such an aggressive move,
Right.
even in 1988.
Right, right.
There's not even then. I was like, and I always was struck by that like they cut to this insert of him clapping his hands,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if it's something that he did in a rehearsal,
Mhm.
and Levin's is like, oh, we got to pick that up.
Yeah.
That's something you definitely see a lot in David Fincher movies,
Mhm.
where he'll just like do an insert of something that seems inconsequential.
Okay.
But you don't see this any other part in the movie, or I'd have to
Yeah.
really think about it. But yeah, it is riveting, and it took me a long time. I'm not even sure I completely understand what Charlie's job is.
I was going to make the same point. It's vague. I can't tell if he's a scammer or if he's semi-legit or if he's just in the hole financially or if he's just hustling. Like, I wasn't sure what he actually does. He seems to like flip cars or like buy them from someone
It's like
else.
Babbitt
and then-
Collectibles, so he might.
Yeah.
So he's buying these 4 cars, which we see.
Mhm.
These 4 cars which, and I'm not a car person. I don't think you are either.
No.
So, I mean, the first one that we see, that incredible opening shot of like this Lamborghini kind of flying through the sky, which is such a fantastic visual. Shout out to John Seal, who would go on to win an Oscar for English Patient 8 years later and does an incredible job with this movie. I believe he's Oscar nominated for this, but does not win. These 4 cars that we're seeing, he's probably like at the port of LA or something. I think he's bought these 4 cars and he's selling these 4 cars. But he's not at a dealership or anything.
It seems shady. From
I don't know if it's shady. I think he's just underwater financially. I think what he's doing is legal.
Okay.
I think he just can't cover it.
Yeah.
And I think he needs something like, I think he needs $200,000. Then later they took the cars, and then he needs 80.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's illegal. I think he's just overextended himself.
But their office is like outside. It's like in a little dinky
yeah, it's in a warehouse.
Something about it is just off.
Well, I think he's a hustler.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely supposed to think that he's a hustler.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he says, okay, you saw me sign the check. You saw me send it away. You know, like all these things is like, and you personally saw me sign the check. So I think he's a hustler, and I think that if he can make this deal, then he can pay everybody back. I think that you're just supposed to, because it's interesting, since we're on the subject of Cruise, this was a movie that was in development for a long time. Steven Spielberg was going to direct it and did not, because he went on to do Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Sidney Pollack, who worked with Hoffman on Tootsie, was going to do it. So it was through very big hands. And I think Levinson comes on kind of last minute. In his Oscar speech, he kind of says, like, you know, he was sort of the last piece of this, which I think is fascinating.
Okay. Yeah.
But if I read in college the Rain Man script, and in the Rain Man script, Charlie is described as mid to late 50s, overweight, balding, because he's way too young to be Hoffman's brother.
Right.
Hoffman's 25 years older.
Yeah.
He's more like his son.
Yeah.
They're very vague about, they're fudging Raymond's age. Hoffman's 51 here, Cruise is 26.
Okay.
So
let me interject really quick.
Please.
He's 26. Okay, in the 80s, it is impossible to tell how old these actors are.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll admit it, I'll watch Murder, She Wrote episodes from time to time.
Oh, you're not
and
the
the
only one,
guest stars and everybody, it's the hair and the clothing and the fact that nobody's drinking water and everyone's still smoking cigarettes, that like they age so much faster than people do now, that it's impossible to tell if someone's in their 20s, in their 40s.
Yeah.
Where were, and the whole movie I'm like, is Tom Cruise in his 30s? Like, I have no idea. Like, he's ageless anyway, but like, I don't know. It's just funny that he's specifically 26 here, because I never would have been able to figure that out.
I think they're being vague about it. Another thing, just to bring what you're saying more into relief, is people in his generation were still playing high school seniors.
That's true.
Like
that's a good
on either
point.
side
we
of
got
it. Like,
the outsiders. We got
he's the same age as all the Brat Packers. He's not
that's
technically
true.
part of the Brat Pack, but he's the same age as Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore.
Yeah.
And I think Ringwald actually was younger. She was 16 playing 16, but like a lot of those Brat Pack, Angel McCarthy, all those people, they're all about Cruise's age, give or take a year. So I think that's what also throws it into relief, is that he doesn't make another high school movie. I think he does All the Right Moves, which is right after Risky Business, and then that's it.
Yeah.
He does Legend, then he does Top Gun, and Top Gun, he's a grown-up.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have to go back to high school.
And
like,
it
he's the only one.
skews our perception of what high schoolers look like, to have had all these John Hughes movies and things where they're like pushing 30.
Some of
and
them,
playing 17. And and then you see an actual high school and you're like, whoa, like it's a child.
Yeah, even when you were in high school, I remember having this conversation, in high school, that when I was 16, 17, the age of those Hughes, I was like, I thought I'd be like, I don't know, I thought I'd look more like a grown-up.
Right, totally.
And yeah, so I think that they don't actually say, because when he gets to Walbrook, he says like, oh, he was 18 or 20 then. So I think they're trying to pass Hoffman off as 40.
Yeah.
He's 10 years older, not such a huge thing. And I think you could say that like Charlie's 30 and that Ray is 40.
It's like 12 years older or something.
And then that could almost work. So you buy it. But what's funny is that the very next movie Hoffman makes, a movie I really love that's, I want to talk about obscure, called Family Business, where he plays Matthew Broderick's father, and Matthew Broderick is the same age as Tom Cruise.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
So you could very easily, but yeah.
Yeah. Age him up, age him down.
Yeah, but this movie is something, it really wasn't my understanding until Tom Cruise said, oh, I want to do it, that it like happened.
Oh, good for
him.
Him.
Because he had really wanted to work with Hoffman, and this was the movie that Hoffman was attached to. And something else that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I don't say this to denigrate this movie, this is an interesting thing for Dustin Hoffman. He only makes 4 movies in the 80s. He makes Tootsie, which is a huge hit.
Amazing film.
Yeah, amazing film. he makes, but the movie he makes after that, which is the year before, is Ishtar. And for
Oh.
anybody younger who doesn't know what the hell Ishtar is a movie that Dustin Hoffman makes with Warren Beatty, which cost something like $35 million. This is in 1987 and was a bomb.
Right.
And when I was a kid, all I knew about Ishtar was it was like the Geely of its day.
Or the Cleopatra. Or
But Cleopatra is a tough one because Cleopatra did make money, it just cost a ton. Really something like Geely or like Battlefield Earth, where it's just like when you say it, it's like
a thud.
It's like a thud. Like there were so many jokes about Ishtar.
Yeah. Late night talk shows.
Late night talk shows is just like, oh, a disaster.
Yes.
And that's the movie Hoffman makes before this. So Hoffman's in his wing is kind of down.
Comeback.
This is incredible. Way. I mean, to be in the biggest movie of the year and to win your second Oscar. This movie kind of snaps together when Cruise says he wants to play this part. And I'm sure the studio was like, oh, fine. This is some much younger brother. I think I don't bump on that so much. But yeah, it is crazy that there was 25 years between these guys. And even for siblings, that's really stretching it. Like 12, 13 years, like that could happen if the parents are young. Obviously, the parents are not characters in this. He's in the car going to Palm Springs with his girlfriend, Susanna. And another thing I just love, she very rightly says, can you speak to me before we get to Palm Springs? And then he says, one of these. How do we get into one of these?
Oh, I know. He just goes off.
Yeah.
And her whole thing is just communicate with me.
Right.
Tell me your feelings. And he's just like, ugh.
Right.
And you find out later they've been together for a year.
She says
and
that,
I'm like this thankless role of both the literal role of the girlfriend and the role in his life of his underling and his holding all the emotions for both of them and just trying to get him to open up. That cliche, the woman just wants him to talk to her. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are you thinking now? What are you feeling now? And he's just not having it.
Yeah.
And, that's the beginning of me being like, oh, this actress is doing a good job with what she's been given, but it's painful. It's painful for me to watch her be presented as from his perspective, this nag.
Right.
I
agree and disagree with what you're saying.
Okay.
So this is gonna. I have a bit of a thing with Valeria Golino, who plays Susanna. I think in the early going, I see what you're saying. I think he sees her as a nag. I don't think that Levinson is trying to show us.
No, the movie doesn't.
Okay. So
the
then we
movie, it's it is thankless. We see her as this woman who's trying.
Yes.
And she's going up against a brick wall.
Right.
And I wonder what it is that's keeping her with him.
That's a good point.
But I didn't feel like the movie was mocking her or presenting her as this irritating thing for the audience.
Okay.
Much like with Raymond, the movie is very they treat him with humanity the whole time.
Yeah.
Whereas Charlie Babbitt, Tom Cruise's character, is the antagonist.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the movie's very clear, this guy's not doing a good thing right now. And we're rooting for Raymond and we're rooting for the girlfriend.
Which I think is what's kind of brave about the depiction and about Cruise's portrayal of this.
Yes.
Because Cruise is already pretty much the biggest movie star in the world. This kind of cements it. Top Gun, he does Top Gun, which is the biggest movie of that year. He does Color of Money with Paul Newman and Scorsese, a great movie. Cocktail is not a great movie, but is a big hit. He would have been shooting that around the same time as this. So he is really on fire.
Yeah.
And I think, I
for
think
him to be so unlikable is a credit to the actor for saving the movie, for what you mentioned earlier, making sure that it was made.
Yeah.
And for not holding back. Because I really do see it as almost 85 to 90% of the film, you're just Jesus Christ with this guy.
Yeah.
And that is brave.
I don't think it's something he would ever do today.
Yeah, exactly.
Even 10 years after this, maybe 10, 15 years after this, I think he, like a lot of people, is so micromanaging of their own image. And this is true of actors that came before him, actors that came after. Good actors, and I think Cruise is very good in this movie. But so sticking with Susanna for a minute, because I think I found something out years ago when I listened to the director's commentary that Barry Levinson did. He did something that I thought was fascinating. So the reason that Susanna is Italian, not Italian specifically, but she is Italian. The reason why she's not an native English speaker is in that scene where he's explaining the backstory with his dad. So he'd have to repeat things. So she'd have to say, what has pulled over me?
Okay, gotcha.
So I thought that was a fascinating way because I don't know that jumps out at you. You don't see this and think like, oh, they cast somebody who's just, even if you can't place the accent, clearly not American,
Right.
clearly from another country.
Yeah, I did wonder why they did that actually.
That's why.
'Cause
So he would have to explain to her, not because she's an idiot,
right.
because she
No,
says
no.
like,
Just
I don't know what pulled
the
over
turn of
means because
phrases are not
it's an
familiar
idiom
to
I
her.
don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant, and something I would have never twigged watching the movie.
That helps me actually
Okay.
because part of me was like, what are they doing to this poor actress? Like they're making it tougher on her than it needs to be. And is he dating her because he's looking down on her a little bit on some level of
Right.
like, she's not going to understand things.
Right.
She's, and so it made me a little uncomfortable that they had cast someone with an accent who's sort of like begging him, and like, it rubbed me the wrong way. But if it's on, I don't know, it helps me. Like it gives extra layers to it. It gives extra grit to like the reasoning behind it. It's purposeful.
Yeah,
so
Levinson definitely said that,
helpful.
and that's not something that's something he says on the director's commentary.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, which I thought was a very subtle. I mean, we're going to talk more about Levinson in a few minutes, but what I like though, I guess to kind of push back on her role being, I don't want to put words in your mouth, being meek. I liked how when he finds out his father dies.
Really quick.
Yeah.
She's not meek. She pushes back. She's a
Right.
force to be reckoned with.
Yes. Okay.
But I took issue with the fact that she's so caring and loving and automatically knows how one should treat an autistic person, that like she's kind of just this normal vessel of like warmth and like humanity and like a good woman. And what is she doing with this guy?
That's
like,
fair.
And it just doesn't give her the complexity. She just gets to be like a regular person. And I understand why. You can't have her character be that like complicated, because you need it to really be about the brothers. But
This is
she's
two guys in
so
the car.
good, and she's so like, what are you doing? And we, just be nice to him and all this stuff, that I just felt like, how is she dragged along in this? Like,
well, she leaves, which I think is significant.
She does leave, but when she comes back, it's not because he apologized. It's because the job ended. You know what I mean? She has to like show up.
Well, he does call her
Okay.
after. So there is. You may not remember.
He gives her a crumb.
Well, he gives her a crumb, but I think he calls her after he has this revelation. We can jump around all we want, but so there's a clear moment in this movie, and I'll get to it in more depth later on, because I think it's maybe the best scene in the movie. There's a clear moment where I feel the Charlie character, for the most part, flips, where he completely is like, he stops being aggressive to him. He sees it when he figures out. We'll go back to why Raymond went to Walbrook.
Yeah.
Rain Man, what that means.
Yeah.
After that incredible scene, he calls Susanna, and he says, like, I just need to hear it's not over. I think Cruz is really good in that scene. I think she hears on the phone that like, this guy's changed.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's changed, and she knows he's driving cross country with this guy. I don't think she can assume all that happens.
Right.
So I can only assume, and I do agree that it's a bit of a blind spot of this movie. I can only assume that prior to the movie starting, that he had those moments of vulnerability, that he was nicer, and that we're just seeing him at a particularly stressful point in his life.
That's
stressful
fair.
in his business, his dad dying, which is stressful. As someone
bringing up all the things that he didn't want to look at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody who was running from his father, and we learned that the father did reach out to him. This was a one-way street.
Right.
The father for
decades.
Well, I guess because Cruz is so young.
Right.
Let's say for 10, 12 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's say for 10 years.
If he's in his 30s, as I thought. But he's,
whatever.
Yeah.
10, 15 years, his dad's been reaching out to him, and he says, no. So I think I don't bump on her coming back.
That's a fair interpretation. And I think also part of my hackles were raised, because another thing I think of when I think of 80s movies is the thankless girlfriend role.
Yes.
Of just like, she's here to look pretty.
Right.
And to make the leading man better somehow by, either helping him or assisting him or just being a paragon of a better way to exist.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily fair. And that's a lot to lay on this movie as like the
it's all over,
punishment
though.
to the 80s. But like, and then you think of like Dangerous Liaisons, where the women characters are fucking amazing. And so you think it's not an 80s thing, and it's not, but there are movies where, because men in the 80s were more likely to be the lead character and the character that gets the growth arc, the woman's just there.
Yeah, and
she's along for the ride, and
Yeah.
sometimes she has a couple good moments,
Mhm.
but she's mostly there to be the moral center, and the guy gets to go through the growth, you know?
Yeah, I think let's stick with her because we're on her, and
Yeah.
she's obviously in the first and I guess late third act of this movie, but then she disappears. But let's stick with her because she's really the only other person in this movie
Mhm.
that recurs.
It's like a two-handed play.
It is,
like,
which is what I love about it,
Yeah.
and it has a similarity to another movie the same year that I'm gonna talk about later on in the show. Which I don't know how accidental that is, but anyway, what I love is, you know, when his dad dies, his response is just so cold to it.
Yeah,
And
like,
it's
sorry about the weekend.
Right. And then she's like, I'm coming with you. And he's, I'm sorry, I forgot who I was talking to. So you get a sense of like, oh, she
Yeah.
is strong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, she is.
He'll definitely like boss her around, but I think that she
pushes back.
She gives
She's
as
not
good as he
scared
gets.
to push back.
And
It's-
even, and I think you see like, oh, I can wait in the car if you like, you know, like,
Yeah.
the fact, like, I think that she's, I mean, I guess it's calling her
She's
the
kind of
moral
a secret
center.
weapon. She's kind of a secret weapon.
Yeah, and
where
I
she
think-
is pushing back, and he is recognizing that, like, as obnoxious as he sometimes is to her, like, oh my God, wait. The part when they're in the hotel and they're ordering the pizza,
Yeah.
and he's like, "What does everyone want?" And she goes, "Not pepperoni." And he
Just
turns and
orders the
goes,
pepperoni.
"A large pepperoni." And I was like, "And she slept with him after that?"
Yeah, no,
I was like, "No,
No.
Like, it just cracked me up. I was like, "You wouldn't sleep with him after that? That's
Yeah.
such a dick move,
It
and
is.
so
You-
unnecessary."
there would be so much
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
tension in
Yes,
there. No, I thought that was
exactly.
funny too.
It was
I've
funny.
always found that funny.
Yeah,
She goes, I don't
it
want
is funny.
pepperoni. He goes, yeah, large pepperoni.
Right,
like,
right.
he hurt her.
I know exactly.
Like,
it was such a
but
such
I-
a power move.
But I think she's there. One, he needs someone. He needs
an outside perspective that's
Right.
going to give him like the reality a little bit more.
and she's also there to show. I don't know if anybody needs his hand holding, but when he's screaming at him, it cuts to her in the bathtub, and it's like, this is so
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
I mean, he is so awful.
It
in
gives the
this.
audience an ally in the
Right.
scene of like, okay, it's not like this other person is there with them. So it's not like we're trapped with a kidnapper and his victim. Like
Right.
there's a witness and
Right.
she's trying to like shift things in a better direction. And it
Right.
makes you feel a little bit like, okay, maybe she's going to like tell him to shut up now or calm down or figure out how to keep Raymond feeling safer.
Right.
You know, you need her. So she's vital.
Yeah, and I think also, so she leaves the movie, and I think before she does, she calls him out on this is kidnapping.
Yeah.
You didn't even love your
Yes.
father. Oh, you need the money, so it's not like stealing. I think it's like one of her best lines.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
because he's trying to justify. He's like, you know, I need that money. He's like, oh, so it's not like stealing. So
Right.
I think they probably have had fights like that before about much
Right.
less important things.
Yeah.
Maybe about the pepperoni pizza, like you're
Right,
saying.
right.
I do agree that's weird. She would not have sex with him that night. That is 100%. That is 100%. Or there would have to be some sort of
Or
mea
she
culpa.
makes him pick off the pepperonis
Something.
one by one.
Right. Maybe there's
Yeah.
some deleted scenes
Right.
of that.
There's a
Yeah.
pepperoni
She
scene.
would get her pound of flesh for that.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Especially about a food thing.
Right.
I completely agree. And that's very,
Oh,
very fair
man.
and astute. But I think that
When she leaves, it's very satisfying.
it's very satisfying, and I think that's I think that's a window that they've had a fight of that intensity
Yeah.
before about something maybe not that important.
Right.
And I don't think it's necessarily a volatile relationship where they break up and get back together a lot.
Right.
Because she
Mhm.
doesn't say it's over. She's just leaving.
Right.
And then
she's like, enough.
And you see how
Yeah.
he's scared because he just looks at his brother. He's like, fuck, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
And there's a moment I love just before that,
Uh-huh.
after he orders the pepperoni and she's talking with Raymond, and it cuts him just sitting on the couch holding the phone. He's afraid.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, when he's not talking, there's a lot of moments in this movie
Yeah.
where Cruz isn't talking or hustling and Raymond's doing his own thing and he's left alone with his own thoughts. There's a shot later on where they're like in Missouri or someplace. He's just laying in bed where they're
Yeah.
caught in the rain. He is alone with his thoughts, and that's a very...
Oh, he does not like that.
He does not like that. Like, he would almost rather Raymond be
Yes.
yammering
Right.
and because at least
Filling
that's
the
something
air
to do.
with something.
This is
yeah.
not a guy who wants to be alone with his thoughts. But sticking with Susanna, because we're on her, and she
Yeah.
kind of comes in and out of the movie. Or do you want to come back to her later?
No, you know what? It's good because then when we get into the brothers, that'll be like the meat of it. You
Fine.
know? Yeah.
So she comes back in the third act, and the tenor of their relationship is changed.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, I see why they work as a couple.
Mhm.
He's obviously done all the work, meaning that he's less of a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
In fact, I think by the time she comes to him,
Mhm.
we've seen him do his already last asshole-ish thing, which he
Mhm.
apologizes for. He gets mad about the Wheel of Fortune thing, and like minutes later, he's like, "Hey Ray, I'm
Yeah.
really sorry about that. You know, I lost my
Yeah.
temper." And it's like, this is great.
That's true.
He's
That's a
apologizing,
huge
and no one's calling him out
growth.
on it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great thing. And that's the last thing he does that's not even cruel. Just like that's like, I mean, on the scale of things he does, that's like a really low number.
Right.
But it is like, you know, the fact that he on his own before she even shows up
Yes.
is like, "Hey Ray, I'm really sorry
She
about
didn't
that."
prompt him.
She
He
wasn't even
did
there
it of
for
his
it.
own volition. Exactly.
And I think that's great
Yeah.
that she comes up like
After.
what? Like
It's
after.
like a reward.
It's
in
a
way.
reward. And I
Yeah.
think that you see the relationship works for me there because I think
Mhm.
you see what it might have been like before we met him in this movie. Does that make sense?
Yes. I will say when
Maybe.
she joins them in Vegas,
Mhm.
I was fine with everything she did until she kissed Raymond
Really?
because that creeped me out a little bit. It
Really?
almost felt like taking advantage of a kid with like a
Interesting.
kid's sensibility, a kid's maturity level.
Oh,
It
wow.
felt like she was kind of just like, he'll never kiss anyone unless I do it. So I'm going to just, plant one on him and give him that experience. And I just felt weirded out by
You
it.
felt it was a violation?
Almost,
Oh,
because I
interesting.
didn't know if he really consented. I didn't know if he really. It's tough to know. It's really tough to know. And like,
He can't consent, which is why he didn't. So that's
Right.
fair. He's not like he. Well, wait. Hang on though. Let's see if we get the facts right.
I mean,
Does she ask? She says, "Have you ever kissed a girl before?" She says, "No." Does she
or
not
does
ask?
he even answer? Does he? I don't know. Or I'm not sure what he even answers. I'd have
It's
to go
definitely
back
not
and
in
look
the
at it.
affirmative.
But I think like, and it's not that I don't think that would happen because I think it would. But I just, as I watched it, I felt weird.
Interesting.
And we'll talk about this. I have a teenage son who's autistic.
Mhm.
And just thinking about like, it's easy to take advantage of someone who is not at the maturity level that they appear. And so something about it, and I just
This is an adult, obviously.
right.
Raymond is.
Raymond is older than her, but it's like she's kind of cornered him. Like Charlie's not there. And I'm not saying she's predatory. Like it
No.
wasn't that. It was just something about the fact that she did it at all. Like, again, I think someone probably would because she's thinking to herself that she's doing him a kindness. He didn't get to go on his date.
Mhm.
He missed out on this experience that everyone should have. Everyone should have that chance to kiss somebody who's kind to them.
Huh.
And so on that level, I'm like, I get it.
Right.
But on just a visceral mom level,
Huh.
I was like, I don't feel good about this.
That's so
I'm
interesting.
weirded out just a little bit.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. So much to unpack there. So I guess obviously I saw this movie before I even.
As a
Yeah,
kid, it
as a
didn't bother
kid,
me at all.
of course.
As a kid, I was like, oh, good, he got a kiss. Everyone, like I was totally fine with it. But as an adult, I was just a little skeeved.
Well, I guess a couple things, and I don't think you're saying this either. I didn't find it to be sexual. I mean, obviously,
No, it's not like a violation in that sense.
Yeah.
But it seemed a little bit like, does he really?
well, he can't consent.
Right.
He can't consent because we also see, sticking with this, we see the end of that really great dance scene where he tries to hug him and he pushes him away.
Right.
And so we see that Raymond does have a thing about his space. Now,
Yeah.
you could flip that and say that
Mhm.
because he lets her that close to him,
that
he is
maybe
consenting.
he's curious or he's whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, which he would certainly be allowed to be. Like, I don't begrudge. Like, it's not like I'm looking at the characters and like wagging my finger. Like, it was a very
No.
human moment.
Right. I
But
think
it made me
it's-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's totally fair to
Yeah.
make you uncomfortable, and you're coming at it from a I guess a mom place, even
Right.
though Raymond is an adult.
Right, exactly.
I mean, so obviously, if that were to happen to if your son was in that situation, the exact same situation, I don't know.
But even then, I would be thinking to myself, like, well, if he wanted to have a kiss, what's wrong with that? So it's not like I'm judging either of them or saying that it's flat out wrong. I'm just saying just the element of it, just something about it. I was just looking at the screen and I was going, eh.
Well, let me ask you this though, not to make this because this is fascinating, and this is obviously not going to come up in any other episode of this show. Is the fact, just to play devil's advocate, because
Yeah.
I will completely agree that nobody in '88 was even thinking about this. They thought like,
No.
oh, this is a sweet
Including
scene.
me when I saw it.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So if it comes up that it was, we'll just be generous and say insensitive,
Mhm.
it's one of the many things in these '80s movies, even ones that we love, that
Right.
just hasn't aged well.
Right.
So we could put it there and leave it there. But
Mhm.
to play devil's advocate, because I do think this movie does, I think, such a really good job navigating these characters. I'm wondering if a couple things. If the fact that Raymond doesn't push her away, the way we saw him push Charlie away for a hug minutes before, a couple scenes, but minutes in the movie before, if that is his consent, also, she is, I'm not trying to be like a lawyer here, but when she meets Raymond and Vern says, when he says, are you on any prescription medication? He goes, oh, he likes you. That's just his way of showing it. The thing that puts off the prostitute later on. So she has the connection with Raymond.
That's
it's not
true.
And, you know, obviously she's very nice to him.
Yes.
And she's the one who says, I mean, to the point where I almost wonder, like, is leaving him the responsible thing? If you're leaving him with this maniac?
Right. But it's not hers to fix, you know?
It's not hers to fix, and there'd be no movie after, so I'll let that slide.
Right.
I don't think it's like a plot hole, because she can't be in the car with him. The movie would just not be the movie. It's got to be about these two guys on and on.
Right.
But I'm wondering if it's in the language of the movie as represented, is he consenting by not shoving her away? Because
that's possible.
When his space is invaded, we see him scream and push people away. That breaks Tom Cruise's heart.
Yeah.
So does that help you?
That's a really good point. It does help me.
Okay.
And also, I'm not opposed to films making me uncomfortable.
No, you're not.
Like,
you're not.
It's very much just a thing where I want art to push and make me think about these things.
But this movie's not trying. It's supposed to be a sweet moment.
Right.
It's not supposed to be something that we're on the fence about.
That's
this isn't
true.
that movie. This isn't like Oleana, where we're like, well, what's going on here? I don't know why I pulled that reference.
Which is why it was kind of interesting that in this 80s blockbuster, Oscar award-winning thing, it had a moment where I was giving myself pause.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that in a lot of these movies.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. I guess, I'd love to hear what other people think about this, because I always took it as a sweet moment. I think your point, there are things that just haven't aged well, and usually, this is the rare time we're talking about it woman to man. Usually it's I mean, I'll go with the premier example is Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, that's like the most egregious. I don't know if it's the most egregious, but it's the one where, you know, when it was pointed out to me that a character in that movie commits sexual assault, I was always like, I never even occurred to me to think of it that way. You know?
And like Pretty in Pink, or whichever one it is, where he goes off with the girl who's drunk or something at the end, and we're supposed to be cheering. I can't remember which John Hughes movie it is. Is it 16 Candle? I don't remember.
I mean, the John Hughes movies have, and we've talked about some of them, well, in brief, almost every John Hughes movie has something in it, as brilliant as they are, that just hasn't aged well. But I think it speaks to a larger 80s.
Yes.
Just not knowing.
It was the context. It was just the time.
But to close this thing out about as far as the elevator scene, I think you bring up an interesting point, and you're coming at it from obviously a very learned, specific place. I always took it as her sort of, it's almost like an extension of like, okay, this is my boyfriend's brother. This is a piece of Charlie. I never looked at it as like this sexual thing. And I think she probably rightly thinks like, okay, you know, he's not going to have this experience.
Right.
And also,
I don't give it to him, he will never have it.
Yeah,
and
I think,
so am I obligated to? Which I think, like, are you obligated to?
No, I don't think she's obligated. I think she wants to.
Right, she does. But I think, like, why does she want? Is it just like she just feels bad for him? Like, it's almost like it's a pity thing. Like, if I don't do this, he'll never have it.
I don't know if it's pity. I think pity's a part of it. I just think that I think it's something she wants to do.
Yeah.
I think it's something going on in her, and I think that the character maybe is a little short-shrifted. I mean, there's no room for her in this movie.
Yeah.
As we can, I think, agree.
Right.
But I do think that it's part of her arc in terms of coming back into Charlie's life and them ending up presumably together. I mean, they're in a really good place when it ends.
Yeah.
I also love when they get to LA, and she says something like, I liked our dance in the elevator. And he's like,
oh,
what?
right.
Like, that's between us. He's like, us, right? Like, he's not mad.
That was cute.
And,
that was
and
kind of a fun thing. Like, they, you know, like, hey, he has experiences that have nothing to do with you. And there's kind of something nice about that.
And Cruz is so cool about it. He's like, kind of like us, right?
Yeah.
And then when he finds out that he kissed Susanna, he's like, you kissed Susanna? Like, he's not even upset.
That's a sweet callback to it. And I think there's also the whole part of me being like, well, if there's a girl in the movie, that's what girls are for. We'll have a kiss. You know what I mean? And I know I'm looking at it a little bitterly.
No, it's not bitterly. Look, she's obviously a very beautiful woman.
Right.
I'm sure. I'm wondering, and this is sort of rhetorical, if there was a version of the script where she wasn't in it, even the little bit that she's in it, and maybe with the inclusion of Cruz, it was like he's got to have a young, sexy girl. Not even young, they're the same age.
Right. That's totally possible.
So
just to add that.
It's possible that the studio or somebody included him, where if it was a character Hoffman's age, and the guy wasn't, the guy was late middle aged, they might not have, but he would still need somebody. He would still need another character there to talk about what's going on inside his head. So he might have had a wife who would have been his. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know this is a script that was around for a long time, and but yeah, I think her, and we'll close out the Susanna portion of it. I think that it is a role that's definitely underwritten. I can say that. Not egregiously so.
No.
But I don't know. I was sold on this elevator thing. I think you bring up a good point. I don't know if I'd have a different take on it coming at it for the first time as an adult. I think that's a lot of these 80s things where it's like,
for sure.
Okay, what did you think about this now that you've seen this as an adult? Seeing this for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's come up a lot in some of these, even some of these Best Picture winners, I think. It's just like, oh, that hasn't aged well.
Yeah.
So I think it's, I'm curious if people think about this. If anybody wants to, I'll do the email at the end of the show. If anybody agrees with Sarah, I'd love to hear more about this, because I think it's really interesting, and it's something I never would have thought about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
So yeah,
like the brothers, the Babbitt brothers.
Now we can get into the meat of this movie.
Babbitt brothers on a road trip. One of them against his will.
Yes. So yeah, obviously, so let's talk about where we meet Dustin Hoffman at Walbrook. So a lot. So we find so Cruz's father's. I'm not gonna recap the whole movie, but like he finds out that he's getting cut out of his dad's estate. And I really think that scene where the will is being read is really funny. I mean, Cruz is really funny there. He's definitely being an asshole. I got the rose bushes, right? These are rose bushes.
Right.
So I think that movie does a really good job of, this guy's a prick, but we're able to laugh at him.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah, we're not like on his side.
Right. But I think he's still entertaining.
Yes.
Because this is, Cruz is in every second of this movie.
Right.
Hoffman doesn't come into it for a long time. And then there's a lot of things Hoffman isn't in, or it's off his back or something. So this movie is on Tom Cruise's shoulders.
And we meet him. His establishing thing, as we've mentioned, is that he's this hustler and he's this alpha and whatever. And so everything that happens in the movie is going to be framed through how will Charlie react to it. And that's where a lot of the humor comes from, because it's like, this guy is going to freak out.
Exactly.
And he's going to be furious.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
And it's also disturbing because Raymond is along for this kidnapping. But like, viewed through that lens, like, you need a character to be that dickish, because everything that happens now has heightened meaning.
Exactly.
Because he's going to respond to it in a crazy way.
If she, just to close out, so the elevator scene is the only scene that Charlie's not in.
Wow.
It's the only scene that he's not in, because he's talking.
I didn't even realize that.
He's the only scene he's not in because he's called into the office and told, get out of town, you cheated, we can't prove it, get the fuck out of town.
Yeah, that was funny. They got away with it.
Yeah, they got away with it.
They just had to leave.
They just had to leave, which he was going to do anyway.
Right.
He doesn't push his luck. But that's the only scene where we're not with Cruz, which I think is why that scene is so interesting.
Yeah.
Just to kind of point that out. But also, you also see his charm offensive when he goes to the bank and he talks to him. That is a terrific suit. You see, this guy can be charming.
Right. He can. He just has to want to.
He has to want to, and he's doing it as a complete con. And you just know they cut away. You're like, oh, he got the information from this woman.
Yes.
This woman who's like, 15, 20 years older.
His charisma entered the room in front of him, and he just went to town.
Because he says to Susanna, wait here, I need a few minutes.
Yeah.
And he's not sidelining her he's just like, I can't have you with me.
Right.
I need to appear.
I need to put on my mask.
And I can't have a pretty woman next to me. So you see like
this calculated charm.
And you see how he's probably been as successful as he's been up to that point.
Yeah.
How he got those 4 cars.
Yes.
Whatever business success he's had, which we don't know about, I'm not that interested in.
What he does, he's good at, to the degree that he's able to scrape by this hustle.
Yeah.
And
He's very good at thinking on his feet. And you see that all through the movie when he tries to get into the woman's house to do the
that scene's
people's
hilarious.
Court. It's not a great con, but he's still able to think on his feet. He's still like, okay, that's more than I could come up with.
Like, either he's going to melt down on your porch, or you can just let us come in and watch people's
He
court.
switched his tactics. He's like, look, I lied to you. I'm sorry. My brother's going to have a meltdown on your porch, and your kids are going to have to watch it. I don't know if he says all that. But
and I love how the kids just wanted to watch cartoons, and now they have to watch people's court. It's so funny.
Yeah. There's so many things that are, so one thing I think that's really one of the things I think is really effective and that I think Barry Levinson does really well is, so when they go to Walbrook, they look in like sort of like this music room, and it's all the actual patients there. We see people who have Down syndrome. We see people who are whatever it is, and it's the real people. Clearly, everybody in that scene except for Dustin Hoffman are the real people. And what I think is interesting about that is, Do you remember the movie Tin Men that Barry Levinson did with Richard Dreyfuss and Danny DeVito?
Vaguely.
Okay, it's a great, great movie. I mentioned it for this one reason. There's a scene in Tin Men, which could not be a more different movie than this, but he makes it the year before. There's a scene where there's a bunch of people in a bar or like a club in Baltimore, and what Barry Levinson did is he filmed the extras, but didn't tell them that they were being filmed.
Oh.
So he cuts to like a lot of these really cool reaction shots of these people being totally normal, like just relaxed. These and it's
Interesting.
and it reminded me of this. I never made that connection of like, oh, this is something he does. And it's not like the Safdie brothers where I'm gonna put a non-actor and mix him in with like a Hollywood movie star. But I just thought it was a really cool bit of sort of verite of just like, I'm gonna show you, I'm just going to show you these people and this place that Raymond lives and the people who take care of him and the doctors and the nurses. And it's very quick. And also Charlie's reaction to it. He's just so like, what is this?
Yeah.
And
it's just a whole new world
for him. It's a whole new world for him and for Susanna too. But her reaction is sort of like, she's not as off-put or shocked. She's kind of curious.
Yeah.
And she's very curious about Raymond.
Right.
Like when she meets him, she's curious and he's just like, I mean, his response, obviously, what Charlie's going through, I won't say empathy for, but he finds out his dad died.
Mm-hmm.
He never knew his mom. And then he finds out he had this brother he didn't know about. That is fucking horrible.
It's messed up. And so much at once.
I think he earns our sympathy a little bit, even though his reactions are very angry.
Yeah.
It's still like, yeah, he has a right to be upset.
Yes.
Even though but I love the line, this scene's tricky. So the R word is used a couple times in this movie.
Yes, it is.
Once it's used as in a very angry way,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also used in a very clinical way, right? When he meets Raymond, he's like, oh, is he crazy? Is he that?
Yeah.
And I think you see both. One, you're seeing it used as an insult, which it definitely is, but you're also seeing it used kind of matter-of-factly, which I think is a thing that hasn't aged well, but I don't ding the movie on it because it's one of those things.
I don't ding the movie either
we
because
just don't use that language anymore.
Right. That was accurate at the time. This was almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, so I don't, but it was just interesting that we heard the same word used
in different ways.
As an insult, a way that we know is, and then as a way, he says it to a clinical clinician who doesn't correct him.
Right.
Which they wouldn't have. But I love the line which comes after where he says he doesn't understand the concept of money. Because he doesn't understand the concept of money. He's just earned $3 million. He's like, that is fucking poetic. Don't you think? Good old dad. Right. That's a great line.
Yeah, it is.
It's such a great line because it's like, he's laughing. It's not like he actually finds it's funny, but it's just like, that's the part of this that he's hung up on the money.
Yes.
Which is why it's important to put him in financial trouble. It isn't this that he's greedy.
Right.
He's in trouble.
Also, he feels he's owed it, but we also know that he didn't even have a relationship with his dad. You know what I mean?
His
like
choice.
Exactly.
That's what Susanna says. Like, like when the will is read, he says like, I reached out to you, you left me without a son. So I think that's an interesting thing because I think a lesser movie would make the dad, because what the dad does to him is awful.
Right.
Like his reason for being upset is legitimate.
Yeah.
To leave your son in jail for 2 days because he took the car without permission is fucking horrible. And I think it sets Charlie on this path of, a kid without a mom.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know he has this brother that he's missing, but he on some cellular level, you can sense that, like,
well, he remembers the imaginary friend,
exactly,
and that's had an impression on him that affected him. That was something in his life that was real,
right,
without him being aware of how real.
And I think that's the thing where I think that's what keeps us on Cruz's side, is that there's humanity to him.
Right. We understand why he'd be reacting this way, even if we think he's a little brutal about it. Like, he calls him a fucking fruitcake. He says, you don't fool me with this shit for a second. And this autism is a bunch of shit. And I know you can hear me. And, like, he's really going at him.
Oh, it's so hard.
In a manner that would be distressing to anybody, let alone somebody with sensory, like, processing difficulties. And, like, I mean, and when I recognized what the actual plot of this movie was, I was like, this is a horror movie. Like, he kidnaps an autistic man from the place where he was safe and happy.
Yeah.
And holds him hostage.
Yeah.
And like and tries to ransom him. And it's like, it's an insane plot.
Yeah.
And it's creatively like a huge just like leap, and we go with it because we're like, yeah, he's propelled by this rage, but he kidnaps him. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
When I recognized it, because I didn't think that this was the plot. Like,
you didn't remember it?
I didn't.
Oh, so you had not seen.
I knew they were on a road trip, but I thought they were just bonding. I thought it was like, I never knew I had a brother. Hey, oh, he can do these cool things with his mind. He's like a savant. I'll take him to Vegas. Won't that be a lark? Like, I didn't remember that he kidnapped him and held him for ransom and wanted the money. Like, all that went over my head, or I didn't remember it 38 years on.
Right.
I remembered Iko Iko.
Right.
Which I didn't remember happened at the beginning. I thought it happened during a montage in Vegas when they were like on the elevator. That's when I thought Iko Iko was.
Right.
I remembered the counting cards in Vegas, and I remembered the sex scene. That's what I remembered.
Yeah.
And so when I actually watched it, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is a crazy plot.
Yeah, but I think it's
amazing though.
I think this is such a great script. And
Yeah.
I think the engine of this movie makes a lot of sense because he's motivated by greed, by bitterness, well, not even
resentment that no one told him.
Yeah.
And this person that he never even knew existed has all his inheritance.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's totally motivated.
Furious.
Like, it isn't one of those things where bad movies, you're like, well, I don't buy that he would even do this.
No,
it's
you
like,
buy that Cruise would do this.
Yes, and I think that's sort of
It's
the bravery.
Key. It's key. Otherwise, you'd be like, what is happening?
Yeah. I think I think she calls him out on this because she says right away, she's like, "Wait, Bruner said that you should take him to a hotel."
Right.
Like she's already
she twigs that it's not
right. I mean, maybe she should have spoken up a little earlier. I mean, she does say like, "Why do I have to why do I take the car down the road?" I mean, so it's so calculated because he's like, "Oh, let's go look at the ducks array," and then he knows we see him decide, "I'm taking this guy."
Right.
But we also see in the hotel room, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, that like, "Oh fuck, what have I done?"
Right.
Like, he doesn't have
think
total
it through.
confidence.
He just goes for it. And
Right.
I was also shocked at how quickly it escalates. Like, he meets him within a couple of hours, they're gone. They've left the institution. Like, it's not like he visits him a couple of times, then he gets this idea. It's like he just does it.
Right.
He thinks and he acts.
Well, because there's this pressure of
the
money.
Yep.
The loans are coming back. It's like hanging over the entire movie, which I think is really
he's got
smart.
to get back into town.
But when he calls to
take Raymond with him.
Yeah, when he calls to make this ransom demand, you see him lose confidence. He's like, well, this isn't kidnapping, is it? Like, he doesn't have the confidence.
A tiny part of him is like, wait, what did I...
Because the doctor says, like, you got to bring him back. And then, but the doctor says, like, well, he's always been a voluntary patient. So the cops aren't after them.
Right.
Probably because the doctor knows, like, okay,
but it's morally and ethically a horror. But it's like, it's compelling, and of course we want to see how it's going to end up. And the fact that he does go through a transformation, it's brilliant in a lot of ways. Like, it really works.
Yes.
Even as I'm staring at it with my jaw on the floor.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. So let's talk about this diner scene, which is the first time. So Susanna's left. They're alone together in the diner. And this is the first time we see any of Raymond's abilities, like the phone book thing with the waitress. Who's Bonnie Hunt, by the way. I don't know if you recognize her.
No, I didn't recognize her.
Very young Bonnie Hunt.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And Cruz is like impressed with that, as anybody would be.
Yeah.
Like, that's good, Ray. I like
the
that.
Toothpicks as well,
the
right?
toothpicks is another thing where he's just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because that's on either side of the phone call. So you see along that, like, Cruz is, as we are as an audience, Cruz does become
intrigued
and our surrogate. As much as we don't like this guy, he is our, like, when we find out the abilities that this guy has, it is like, holy shit, that's fun. And it's played for humor.
Right.
Like, both those things are funny.
Right.
But the phone book thing is funny, and the toothpicks thing is funny, and it's also kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And you see,
it's like there's lots to unlock with this character.
And Cruz for a couple seconds doesn't think about himself.
Yes,
and
good
he
point.
thinks about, like, oh, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
And that escalates throughout the whole movie. It's really, really well charted.
Do you want to pause and talk about how accurate some of the autism stuff is at the moment? All right, cool.
Anytime you want.
So I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm a mother of an autistic 14-year-old boy. And my son does not have this version of autism. He does not have the savant, like, he does have some extraordinary things that he can do with memory and music. I mean, I wish I had his memory. But he's not memorizing a phone book. He's not, spouting dialogue from old movies verbatim and stuff like that.
Right.
He has more of like a nervous system issue. But the version of autism that this movie depicts of, like, autism is this. It's a white man who can't look you in the eye and have eye contact, who is like socially awkward and has deficits in the communication areas, but also has savant level genius ability in math or something like that. Like, oh, they might be a little bit quirky, but they have a superpower. Like, they can't just be like a regular person. Like, this is the version of autism that I feel like dominated for a long time in the public consciousness of like, we can hear Dustin Hoffman's voice. We can hear his tics. We can hear him saying, definitely this, repeating things. And what I like about that, even though it's just one version of autism, it does this version accurately, in my opinion, because this type of autistic presentation has something called echolalia, which is the mimicking and the repeating, which is also sometimes known as the Gestalt language processing, where the words themselves are not encoded with meaning. It's where did they first hear that phrase? And that's what it means. So they might say something like, somebody might say, hey, do you want to put on your shoes? And they'll say, put on my shoes. They don't mean they want to put on their shoes. They're remembering the first time they heard someone say that and there was a dog outside. So for the Gestalt language processor, you want to put on your shoes means, oh, there's a dog outside. And now they'll repeat it, thinking you're having a completely different conversation.
Like the who's, sorry to interrupt, the who's on first thing. That's why Raymond does that, because he has an association. He gets nervous and he does who's on first.
It's his way of regulating himself in a situation that makes him uncomfortable. And he's not looking at it, as Charlie points out, as like the humor of it. It's a coping mechanism.
Right.
They also include like the rituals and routines, the rigidity of schedule, the repetition, needing sameness, all that kind of stuff. They really pumped up the savant side of Raymond. It did a lot of heavy lifting. Like, he's an amazing artist. He reads Shakespeare. He wins at Jeopardy. Like, he's got all those things. But they also, what I thought was quite accurate was the pancakes and the syrup. The syrup needs to be on the table first. Yeah. Like, that is a thing. And fixating on the little details instead of the big picture, because I read somewhere, and I believe this, a lot of autistic people are taking in 80% more information. And so they can't parse through it as quickly. This is why the processing slows down, because it's too much. It's too much sound. It's too much light. It's too much the tag on your clothing. Like, it's just too much. And so to force somebody to focus on the thing that you think is obviously the most relevant is incredibly difficult, because it's not going to be the most relevant to them. Right. The thing that's going to be relevant to them is the thing that's either causing them pain or the thing that they're fixating on because that's what they started to see first, or they were able to block out certain other things, but now they have to attend to this thing before they can even think about the other things. Right. So I really liked the pancakes and syrup, and I really liked how Charlie eventually, they joke about it. Like, there's that great moment at the end. Yeah. Charlie Babbitt made a joke, and it's just great because they've actually bonded. And when Charlie says, he's capable of so much more than you think he is, I totally buy that, because I think that is absolutely true of every autistic person. Yeah. We put them in these boxes of, they can't communicate, they don't know how to talk, they don't have emotions, and it's such bullshit. We don't know what they're feeling. Just because they are not telling us in a manner that we're accustomed to doesn't mean it's any less depth of feeling or, intelligence or any of that kind of stuff. And it's interesting because I believe, so the DSM changed what they allowed to be consider autism.
You explain what DSM is to folks who might not know?
It is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual. Oh, what is it? I did not come prepared to explain what the DSM is.
It's okay.
It's a medical... It's for prescribing, like this. It's a guide for doctors to determine what's ailing people.
That's what I meant. That's what the letters mean.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And they changed it so that Asperger's was no longer its own category. But Dustin Hoffman's character, I think, would definitely have been considered to have had Asperger's, which is the more high functioning.
Yes.
Like, he's not in a corner looking at his fingers. Like, he's reading Shakespeare. Yeah. Exactly. And
they say how high functioning he is, but both the doctor, Dr. Brunner, and then the doctor they go and see in Texas or wherever, says he's pretty high functioning for his case. So, so two different doctors.
He's leaving the house. He's eating at restaurants.
Right.
He's, he's living as much of a life that he can put together. Exactly.
He's in a new place every day.
But he also has these savant characteristics, and that was what they used to call Asperger's. But then they just scooped it into autism spectrum. And now the autism spectrum is so wildly diverse that it's meaningless. It's in my opinion, if, they always say if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Like, it presents so differently
Yeah.
with so many other varieties of factors going in, like genetically and culturally and all that stuff. So it's like, men and women, present autistic extremely differently, which was why it was very hard for women to get diagnosed until in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Because this was the version of autism that people thought autism was.
Yeah.
And I'm not faulting them. Like, I'm so glad this movie existed and that
Sure.
they put this out and got people talking about it and got it into the conversation. But it is a very precise version of it that just doesn't encompass what autism is and can be.
Yeah.
And I don't expect them to have shown anything else. This was what this movie needed, and it works.
Yeah.
And they did it with a lot of humanity. And
Yeah.
they always make Raymond be, worthy of people's consideration and respect. And I love that about it.
Yeah, we're never laughing at him.
No.
Cruz is the butt of a lot of jokes.
Exactly.
Raymond's
His reactions to Raymond are a butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah,
and
it's never Raymond's never the butt of the joke. And I know that Hoffman, I think one of the reasons why the movie fell apart initially is because he took a really long time. He met with and spent time with a lot of people with autism. And I think that whoever, maybe with more than one person, I think what we see him doing, I'm not saying it's mimicry, I think this is what he observed. But I think he visited places like Walbrook. I don't know if that's a real place. It probably is.
It would be, heaven if it were. Because
I think
it's
is,
like
again, because it
clean
seems like
and friendly and non-abusive and like
I
voluntary and
Right.
all that stuff. It's like the unicorn of institutions that
Right.
really don't exist anymore.
But I think he did visit, however, he got access probably because of his celebrity and started doing this movie.
Yeah.
So he definitely, because he's a method actor in good ways and bad. In this movie, I'll say it's good. He definitely spent time with people, either a person or people.
It shows.
Yeah.
It really shows.
And that was why this movie took so long, is because it was a hard movie to get together, but he also felt like, I'm not ready to do this. So I think it was a confluence of him being ready, and then the biggest movie star in the world saying, "Yeah, I'll play your brother."
Right.
And then the sort of roulette wheel of directors coming in and out of it. But
I just had one last thing to say about autism. I do think that it still remains like the gold standard of people. Like, if you say, "Oh, my son's autistic," people they kind of look at it like, "Oh, he's quirky and sweet like Rain Man." Like, that's what they picture, and they want to know, like, what's his special ability.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I feel like my son has a zillion special things about him, like a million special things that I adore.
Right.
But it's not as clear cut as like, oh yeah, and he can count cards in Vegas. Like, it's not like that. It's like his humanity does not depend on what special superpower he has as a cute autistic person. Like, his value is just because he is a fellow human. And there's that element of like, but what can he do? Oh, he must have some little quirky thing that he can do that's like funny and amazing.
I think it comes from a genuine or a not. I think it comes from a nice place.
I do too. Yeah.
I think because the pop culture,
they're looking for the bright side.
Exactly. Well, the pop culture impact of this movie was very huge, almost immediately.
Yes.
In a way that it would be difficult for any movie to be now. I think when people would say, "Oh, that guy's like Rain Man," it was almost never an insult.
No, exactly.
It was always
which is great. Like, that's
I've had people say that
huge.
to me, like, "Oh, you know every movie that won the Best Picture Oscar, you're like Rain Man."
Right.
It was not like, "Oh, you're."
It's still part of the conversation.
Yeah. So I think it's mainly.
It's a compliment, and it's intended as something sweet and kind and considerate and like, oh, cool. Like, I know what autism is. It's like Rain Man. So what does your guy do that's like Rain Man?
Right. And
it's just not that simple, but yeah.
Yeah. And the movie does say, to its credit, he's very high functioning in his situation.
Yeah.
And all the people that we're seeing in that scene I mentioned a little while ago, they don't all have autism. We're seeing people with Down syndrome or just mentally handicapped and have cerebral palsy, all kinds of things that he's showing you, just like, here's Raymond's world. These are the people he's interacting with, or not. These people who are like next to him. So yeah, I think that the scene, kind of going to the plot, which you're not attacking, but the biggest sort of plot thing in this movie is when they go to the airport.
Yeah.
Why don't they fly? They don't fly because Raymond knows all this information about every airline crash.
Yes.
But I think it also shows that somebody neurodivergent, which I think we can call him, I mean, that's minimally what he is it just isn't going to do something that he's never done before.
Right.
He's never been on a plane.
He's not going to be strong-armed into it. There's
Yeah.
not any logic that's going to override his nervous system response
Right.
because for him it's survival.
Yeah.
And for everyone else it's like, not a big deal, just do it.
And Cruise keeps trying to hustle with him. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
lot of fights. There's a lot of fights. And then he's like, and then
Yes.
he angrily says, "You're gonna get on this fucking plane."
And it's like,
and
no,
then
he's
starts,
not.
And then he
He's
starts
not.
self-harming himself. And then Cruise is like, "Okay,
Right.
like we're gonna drive."
Yeah, as a
And-
mom, that scene was like hilarious as well as like poignant because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, no, people don't understand
Yeah.
that like you can't actually control another human if it's your child or not. If their nervous system is like, I'm gonna die if I do this, you can't make someone do that.
It's demand avoidance is
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah,
Is you know, I
Absolutely.
a lot of it is demand avoidance, and what Cruise is making a huge demand. He doesn't recognize that, like, oh, I'm kidnapping you as a demand, because he does it in a way
Right.
that's like, oh, just follow me, we'll go do this.
Right.
Which
He's treating him like a dog
Yeah.
at first. Like, hey boy, come
yeah,
on.
and then the fact that he's trying to reason with somebody who can't be reasoned with, not because they're unreasonable, because like their brain does not work the same way.
You'd have
And-
to build up for weeks to going on an airplane ride. You'd have to have pictures. You'd have to have social stories. You'd have to
Yeah.
have like, hey, is this something you want to try? You'd have to get consent. Like
and it
so many things.
It never occurs to him.
No.
I mean, and it
And it's
wouldn't
not
occur-
his fault. It wouldn't. Why would
wouldn't-
he ever possibly
He doesn't
know
know this guy
any of that?
existed, much less
Exactly.
anything about his condition.
No, it makes
And-
sense
and I
that
think-
this is how it goes.
And I think Cruise is like the audience in that he's just like, oh, is he crazy?
Right.
They're like, no. Oh, he's the R word. And it's like, no, he's not either one of these things.
Right.
So they're explaining to the majority of people what autism is. And it's
Yeah.
changed so much in 38
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
It's changed so much in the last 15 years. I mean, when I
Yeah.
first heard about Asperger's, I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
I heard about it like in the early 2000s. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this would be really... And there's so many people... A lot of people say, oh, this person's autistic, but a lot of people, you should say this person has autism. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but like,
There's a lot of debate about that kind of stuff, and I
Right.
figure whatever anybody wants to do is
that's completely fine.
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
defaulting, but I'm not faulting anybody for that. But
Yeah.
I think that airport scene is the movie in microcosm. It's just
Yeah.
like, this character is has to learn the hard way. Like,
Right.
oh, I got to do things this guy's way.
Yes.
And he complains about it at the side of the highway.
Yep.
But you do see over the course of this movie,
He learns.
Charlie, he learns and he says,
Mhm.
"Okay, I got your bed by the table.
Yes.
I get to win bed, but I got your markers. I got your cheese." Like,
Mhm.
he's
thinking
annoyed,
ahead,
but
like
he is
every parent of any neurodiverse kid has to do. You have to be 20 steps ahead.
exactly.
And it's relentless and
Yeah.
it's exhausting and it's like this emotional and mental load that is constantly running through your mind because you don't want them to be in such distress that they're going to melt down.
And his motives are very selfish,
Yeah.
but he does still learn. He's like, okay, I got to get this guy to LA. I have to drive now. It's
He
gonna
does
take
it
me-
for efficiency's sake, but eventually it slowly turns into care.
Yeah. And I think this movie's just charted so well just through the Cruise character. I think another great example of this, I mean, the airport scene, a couple scenes later where he's going on how he has to go to Kmart. It has to be the
Yeah, yeah,
Kmart
yeah.
at, in Cincinnati. When Cruise slams on the brakes and they're super wide.
Yeah.
And he's like, what difference does it make? That scene's so funny.
Yeah.
Even though Cruise is being awful,
Right.
it's played so much for laughs
Yeah.
because he's the butt of the joke.
Right.
His voice is so
He's
high.
arguing with someone who cannot be argued with about this.
And he's
But
at
he
his-
insists that logic enter the room and it's not going to. And it's funny.
And in that moment, what does he do? He says, like, I got to take you to a doctor.
Right.
Like, at least he's saying, like, I
Yeah,
need to
yeah, yeah.
understand more about this.
Right.
And he doesn't even find a psychiatrist. He finds just like a general,
Right.
because he's in, like,
The
Bumblefuck,
Boondocks,
wherever the hell he is.
right?
But that scene is also so key because we see more of his abilities. Like, oh, we see how good he is with math.
Right.
But there's that great shot where we're just seeing Cruise's reaction where we're seeing, like, oh, this guy is incredible at this one thing, but he thinks that a candy bar costs $100. And that
Right.
a car costs $100.
Right.
And you do see
Mhm.
him starting to get it.
How
like, okay,
it is disabling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like this guy his brain is just not the same. It's
Mhm.
not that he's the things that I thought, the two boxes I wanted to check him into, both of which are
Yeah.
reductive and horribly stated.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
saw something really interesting that I never noticed just in that doctor scene that we're on now where he takes him to the doctor. This can't be an accident. So when you've seen a movie a bunch of times, and I haven't seen this in a while, but I have seen this movie, I don't know, 50 times maybe.
Okay.
A
Oh,
bunch.
that's a
I've
lot.
seen this a bunch.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I've seen this movie a bunch. I haven't seen it in a couple years. I probably saw it on the biggest screen that I've ever
Uh-huh.
seen it on. But sometimes when I've seen a movie a bunch my eyes will wander, not in a distracted way. I'll just look at like the production design. Yeah. I'm always fascinated by like
look at it through a different lens.
Right, because I know that this movie for a fact is all real locations. Like they went, nothing is built in this movie. They drove, they said in the opening, they drove, west, and I'm sure, but they still would do set dressings. There's something I saw in the establishing shot of the doctor's office where we're kind of wide. We're seeing like another room that outside their room, and there's a poster. And the poster, I can't quite make it out. It's like a kid sitting on a bed and it's silhouetted. The image isn't so important, but it says some kinds of child abuse starts early.
Oh.
And I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
I'm
like,
even notice that.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't seen this movie in 38 years,
Yeah.
so you're looking at like the big picture thing. I probably saw this movie last time I saw it, maybe, I don't know, less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So my eye went to that. I'm like, okay, that's not there by accident.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously about Charlie being abused. This also could be about how he's abusing Raymond, even though he's not. He is the brother, but he isn't a paternal role. Yeah. I often don't think of them. I mean, they're brothers, obviously, but like he's in a paternal role.
Yeah.
He's not in a sibling role, unless you were to look at it as like him being the much older sibling. Like if Raymond were not autistic but were 6 years old,
right?
Maybe that's an offensive comparison, but like that, you could see almost the same movie happening if Raymond were just a little kid.
Yeah.
The movie could almost be the same.
Right.
Except for, I mean, certain things would be different.
Yeah.
So I took that as like, I don't know, I don't want to make too big a meal of it, but I took that as like, okay, well, this could be about Charlie's abuse from his father and Charlie's abuse of that we've seen. I mean, the father thing we've heard about. So I thought that was just interesting.
Yeah.
That just jumped. I don't know why my eye went to that. I just again, if it's a movie, if I were seeing this for the first time, I would have never caught that.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's an accident.
That's what's fun about going back and revisiting is the different things that like pop out at you.
There's another scene that I love where it's one of the first times Cruz Charlie's not trying to get Raymond to do something, and he's not worrying about the money, where they're just driving. And then he talks about like, I'm an excellent driver. And he's like, oh, was dad in the car? Like, it's like this first scene where it's like, it's just about like, it's about the car. 'Cause the car is the huge catalyst for this. It's just like, the car is why he and the dad fell out.
Yeah.
And the car's the only thing he inherits. And, the car's obviously like, I won't say it's like a third character in this movie, but it's like the iconography of this movie is if you were to see that car on the street, I don't believe you're a car person, nor am I, you'd be like, oh, that's the car from Rain Man. Or at least it looks like it. So I love that little, the thing I like about this movie that it does so well is there's so many really evocative and beautiful landscapes in this movie. And this is a talking movie. This isn't like a Terrence Malick movie. Like I think the cinematographer, John Seal, does such a great job of, they're just driving through just like this open, like, the further west they get, the more, but it's not a meditative movie. This is a hyper verbal movie.
They're constantly on the move. There's constantly things happen. Even if they're just sitting in a hotel room, it feels very active.
Yes. Yeah. And I just love, again, how they did this how much of America, I was about to say it's America you wouldn't see anymore, but I don't know. I feel if you were to go to some of these small towns.
I think you would.
You would, because the town they go to see the doctor is, even in 1988, that seemed like it was like the early 60s or late 50s. It was sort of frozen in time.
Yeah.
And I think that town, wherever that is, I believe they're in Texas or they're somewhere in that area, would probably look the same.
Yeah.
I thought that was, so I want to get to the scene that I think is the most devastating scene in the movie, which is that
the
night.
Dance.
Well, no, that's a little later.
Okay.
The in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
So this is another scene where Cruz is like not trying to get him to do something and not worrying about his money situation. He's like, so Ray, when the doctors was asking you all those questions, like he's really interested.
Yeah.
And then they organically get to Rain Man. Ha, Rain Man funny, whatever he says.
Yeah.
And then you find, and this is all one shot. It's not moving a lot. You see Hoffman goes out and you see him in the mirror and he comes back in. And they're holding on the two of them for a long time. The camera's not moving a lot. So they probably are actually in a really tiny bathroom. And I love, this is another detail that came out at me. The shower curtain is all like torn up. And I don't know if that's like some sort of like meaningful thing, but I just love that like they're in kind of a shitty motel.
Yeah.
You know? I don't think it's like a dump, like Great Muppet Caper or anything, but which we covered on the show. And but yeah, I just love, that scene is what I remembered from this movie, and obviously you're getting the backstory of what Rain Man means.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So beautiful. And also you're learning.
It was a gasp moment, I remember,
Yeah.
just being like, oh, that's what that came from.
And it's
like,
so simple.
It's so good.
Because his name is Raymond.
It's
in the
so
movie.
real.
Yeah, it's
of,
so
of
real.
what a kid would say and do and remember.
And then obviously Hoffman has this incredibly, calling it dysregulated is kind of selling it short. I mean, he's like self-harming himself when he sees the hot water.
Yeah.
And then it comes out that, Raymond was sent away because his parents thought that they were going to harm the baby.
Yeah.
And you see on Cruz's face, like, Jesus, I thought my dad hated me.
Right.
And he sent his other son away
to protect
me, which is the wrong thing to do of the father. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a horrible situation because it's like the father's reason for doing it, the sentiment behind it probably was from a good place, but it's so cruel.
Yeah.
Given, what we've seen of Raymond up to that point.
Right.
And that's the scene I talked about a while ago. It's I mean, I don't want to breeze through it, but he calls his girlfriend after that scene.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when he's done with himself. I mean, for the most, the money thing doesn't go away, but I think that's, for the most part, the extreme cruelty we've seen toward Raymond goes away. He still gets exasperated and annoyed, but it's a much more parental thing. It's just like, hey, why are you doing that? But that's more like, to my mind, acceptable. But that scene is so devastating and it's doing so much. And the two of them are just incredible in it. I mean,
their chemistry is amazing throughout. They look like brothers in the scene where he teaches them to dance. Like, when you see them both in profile, I was like, oh, I believe that they are brothers.
They have like a similar nose and stuff.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
They do kind of, in a weird way, they do kind of look alike. Dustin Hoffman would be happy to hear.
It works really well. And I think that, that's a really good point about the pivot with Charlie's character. And I think that because he is still so exasperated sounding with Raymond later, I didn't clock that it's still just a different mode. Like, it's not the same as it was.
It's more just
it's changed.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
not
think
cruel.
You're right. It's not that he's a dick for 90%. It's like he's such a dick early on that I think in my head it felt longer.
Yeah, I just love that scene because we're obviously getting a huge plot payoff.
Yes.
And we're seeing this huge character change.
We're learning why things happened that way.
I'm going to make a comparison to a movie that I think wants to be Rain Man and isn't. It might not even be a movie that you remember. I might cut this out. There was a movie in 2001 called I Am Sam with Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer.
That.
So in the movie, Sean Penn is not autistic. He's mentally handicapped.
Yes.
And
his daughter is slowly becoming more cognizant.
His daughter is the same.
And she's surpassing him eventually, intellectually and developmentally.
His daughter is 8 years old. And
Elle Fanning, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning.
Oh, Dakota Fanning.
And she is now, surpassed him mentally.
Yeah.
And so there's some nonsense where they want to take away, not nonsense, but I mean, I do understand. So my point is that Michelle Pfeiffer is Sean Penn's lawyer.
Okay.
And she takes the case. She's sort of like this hard woman, and she takes the case to kind of spite her co-workers who think that she's just sort of like this hard lady, doesn't care about anybody.
Okay.
And then by the end, she's like really invested. My problem with the movie, and this is not a ding on Michelle Pfeiffer, who's a queen, and we mentioned her earlier.
God love her.
We never see her change.
Yeah.
It's just told that she changes.
Gotcha.
And in Rain Man, we see the Cruz character change, meaning his motivations, his relationship to this disabled character. We never see it change. You do see it change sort of in between. This isn't about somebody who's disabled. In the movie Philadelphia, where the Denzel Washington character is very homophobic, is taking the case for very mercenary reasons. We see in that famous opera scene, Denzel Washington starts to look at Tom Hanks as like, oh, this is a human being.
Yeah.
This guy's dying. He's going to lose his family, all this other stuff. So I'd say that might be the sort of the chart is like, I think that Rain Man does it the best.
Yeah.
Philadelphia does it pretty well. And I Am Sam doesn't do it well at all. And I think it's all down. The performances for sure. I think that in I Am Sam, the Pfeiffer character is just not given any of these scenes. It's not charted. It's also not a two-hander. It isn't Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer in a car alone.
Yeah.
I think there's so much to be said for Charlie and Raymond only having each other.
Right.
And just literally being forced to sort of reckon with each other.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So I want to get to the thing you wanted to get to a second ago, which is maybe my favorite thing about this movie. There's a scene, I love scenes in movies where we watch a character figure something out. And I love the scene where they're sitting in the diner and Raymond's going through the jukebox and just looking at stuff. And then Charlie's like, can we stop with this? And then that he's memorized what he's looked at so fast. And I love that we see Charlie get the idea. Because they've already driven through Vegas. That's the first piece of it.
Okay.
So he's got Vegas on his mind. And the fact that they go to Vegas for this reason is where I talk a lot about on this podcast, particularly with the Best Picture winners, which are on average very, very serious. We're dealing with war. We're dealing with, there's very few comedies that have won, and there's very few of the Best Picture winners I would call fun, whether they're good or bad. I think Rain Man is fun, kind of all through, but this is where it becomes really fun.
Yeah.
And I think this is brilliant plotting. The fact that he has these money troubles, which is what motivates him to kidnap Raymond.
Right.
It's not just greed, like, oh, I want the money. It's like, I need the money, which he says, even it's still greed, but it's more self-preservation. And the fact that, and we've previously seen that, like, they're coming for his business. Like, he's past due. He's like, Charlie, we lost our jobs. Like, he's fucked.
Yeah.
So it isn't just like, but the fact that they go to Vegas is such an incredible setup payoff. And I think it's 80s in all the best ways.
Yeah, yes.
But I haven't really talked about Hans Zimmer's score, which I think is his best score that he's ever done.
Okay.
And he's got, I think, a couple Oscars. And I think that Hans Zimmer is one of these people who, when he's inspired, could be the best, among the best there ever is. And when he's on autopilot, it's just droning music. I think this is what, I don't know if this is his first American movie, but this is certainly the movie that kind of breaks him.
Yeah.
And I think the score to this movie is beautiful and kind of gives it a timeless quality.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the 80s. It feels very, I just love the score of this movie.
Except for Cruise's first scene where you're like, oh, that is precisely what I think of when I think of Tom Cruise in the 80s.
Sure, but I'm saying just the sound
score,
of it,
you're absolutely right. Like, the score
very
is
timeless.
Yeah.
It's not like a lot of guitars and things that like, or like
there's not electronic keyboard.
Right. If this was made 10 years earlier, it's not like a disco thing, which would, you know what I'm saying? It's not cemented to the era that it's made in a bad way.
That's so true.
And I think this is my favorite Zimmer score in a walk. I just love this Vegas scene. I think it's so fun.
It is.
It's keeping up with the character doing this very selfish thing.
Yeah.
But I do think it's just amazing. It's just so much fun. It's just such great plotting, and it's so fun. And then the iconography of them wearing the matching suits and stuff.
Yeah.
And being, and I also love that, like, they almost get in trouble. Like, you see the pit bosses are like, okay.
Right. They're like being hunted briefly.
Right.
And they're on the same team now. Instead of being antagonists, it's like they're partners.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a scene I mentioned earlier where, like, Cruise puts $3,000 on the Wheel of Fortune thing, not realizing that, like,
it doesn't work this way.
It doesn't work this way, and he gets mad. But I love, I'm repeating myself, that just a few minutes later in the movie, he says, "Hey, Ray, I'm really sorry about that."
That did show growth.
It showed growth because no one's calling him out on it. Obviously, Raymond's not in a position to call him out on it. I just think it's just so many movies. Going back to the point I was going to make a minute ago, so many movies do what I fear is, like, they crumble under the weight of their own miserability.
Yeah.
This whole movie could have been miserable.
Right.
The same plot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The plot is unhinged.
Right. But the same plot. You could have, like, as big an asshole as Charlie is, he could have been even worse.
Yeah.
And they could have made the Hoffman character even less able to communicate.
The sensitivity with which Hoffman's character is depicted, especially for the context of the time period, is staggeringly empathetic.
Yeah.
It's just lovely all around.
And I really want to credit Barry Levinson, because I think that he's sort of the last piece of this movie. And Barry Levinson is, this is Barry Levinson's run so he makes Diner, he makes The Natural, he makes Young Sherlock Holmes, he makes Tin Men, he makes Good Morning Vietnam, then he makes this.
Wow.
These are all in a row.
Wow.
That's 6 years.
That's insane.
And then after this, he makes Avalon, and then he makes Bugsy.
Wow.
So he is that's all in a 9-year period. And he's one of these directors, I think I mentioned this before, we recently lost Rob Reiner, Lawrence Kasdan, Ron Howard. these are these guys who all start making movies around the same time, early 80s, and they're working in a lot of different genres, and they are really good with actors and really good with script, but they also can step back. It's not like Scorsese or Spielberg where it's going to be like this really heavy authorial vision. And I think that Levinson, I wrote down Levinson's so good, kind of like Sidney Pollack. We talked about a couple weeks ago actually we talked about him twice this season. We talked about him in Out of Africa, and then we also talked about Absence of Malice, a movie he made in a couple movies prior to that. So I just think that there's I think a lot about this movie, even down to the way it's shot. Like, there's just like a very deft hand, but it's almost invisible.
Yeah.
Like, he's really giving the actors room, because they did a lot of improvising, apparently.
Okay.
I mean, it is a great script, and we'll litigate the script in a second, but apparently they improvised a lot. Like that scene in the phone booth was heavily improvised. I don't know if it was like as the cameras were rolling or like they rehearsed it during the day, but there was a lot of stuff that Hoffman and I guess Cruise too brought to it. Let's talk about the dancing scene, which comes right after. This scene is, I don't know if it's the most iconic scene to this movie. That's hard to say, but I think, this scene is it's a really sweet scene, and
it's lovely. It's poignant.
Yeah, and the end of it is sad.
It is, and it's also very true to life, because you can think, again, like as a parent of a neurodiverse teen, like I'll be like, all right, things are going great, and it turns on a dime.
Yeah.
And you're like, the eggshells are real.
Yeah.
You don't, and just because it doesn't make sense to you of why things turned doesn't mean it wasn't very difficult for the autistic person. You just didn't predict it because you aren't in that mindset where, and so to see him go through that, now that it matters to the audience, because now it matters to Charlie, because Charlie's very hurt by it.
He's so hurt.
And he couldn't have been hurt by it earlier.
He wouldn't have cared.
Yeah. And so the audience is swept along with his arc to feel the things that he's feeling.
Yeah.
And it works really well.
And I think that's why the very next thing we see is Susanna come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think Charlie's not, and I think Brunner says he's not capable of having the relationship with you that you want.
Yeah.
And I think he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's really no villain in this movie. I mean, like Brunner and Barry Levinson himself plays the doctor at the end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Barry Levinson.
That's
we'll talk about him in a minute. Yeah. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they're not the villains, and I think the mistake that a movie like I Am Sam makes is that they're trying to make villains out of these people who saying, like I think Laura Dern plays a character who wants to adopt the Dakota Fanning character, and she's totally nice.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can never see your daughter again. It's like you can't take care of it. So like I Am Sam is taking this position that's not realistic. I mean, you probably shouldn't have, your only parent shouldn't be somebody, who's
unsafe
or just who just, is mentally behind where it's not fair to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's another wrong foot that movie puts down. But so we already talked the elevator scene, obviously.
Oh, and I love the scene when he's driving, when they're leaving Vegas,
right?
And Raymond's driving, and just the way it's shot, with the fountains, is something so magical about
the
it.
music
like,
going,
just the joy of it, the pure like unbridled fun all the three characters are having in the car is really nice. Even if he's like hitting the curb, like it's funny and it's just great. It's like it's this relief. It's like this exhale.
Well, because his money troubles are over.
Yeah, they're allowed to leave without getting their legs broken.
Yeah, which may not be realistic, but that's a whole other podcast about car counting and stuff. But yeah, so then we get to, he meets with Dr. Brunner at the Bonaventure in LA. And, he's given this big payout and he won't take it. Mm-hmm. And he says, I realized I was a prick.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at my father anymore. Like, you were his friend. You probably knew.
I just can't believe you didn't tell me I had a brother.
Yeah. And I think when he says it a week earlier,
him, that's the thing that bothers him now.
Yeah. When he says it a week earlier, he's more angry.
Right.
Here, he's more hurt.
Right.
It's like, why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah. It's the same statement, but it's a completely different context.
And also, not to punch holes and stuff, I'm wondering, and this has occurred to me right this second, if I'm the father who we never see, if I'm Sanford, and I can't talk, and my son won't talk to me for 10 years, why not tell Charlie, hey, you have a brother? That might have been a way to reel Charlie. I'm saying that's a whole other, I'm not saying this is a plot hole.
Right.
That might tell you something about what an asshole the father was for all his maybe some good intentions, including why Raymond's sent away. As horrible as I think that is, the intention behind it is something I can maybe understand to keep my baby safe if that was truly what happened. But like, why? And again, this isn't like a plot hole. This is occurring to me. Like, if I'm Charlie's father, I'm like, hey, maybe if I tell him he has a brother, he'll come back to Cincinnati at least to find that out.
I feel like his dad doesn't play games like that. I
Yeah.
feel like his dad is like, he should return my calls.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you're right.
He just should. And so that's on him. That's just my view of him based on what they've told me
No,
about
you're
him.
absolutely right. You're right.
But I like the.
This just occurred to me
No,
now.
I
but
like
you're-
wondering about that stuff because it's interesting. Because it's like, well, there would definitely be people who would use that, you know?
Well, I'm not saying use it in a nasty way. I'm just saying, like, but I think maybe that just speaks to the father's insensitivity. It's like the real crime was not telling your son that he had a brother,
Yeah.
not withholding the $3 million.
Right, exactly.
I can understand that as a parent of like, oh, if my son cut me out.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Maybe
Yeah.
you like to think, oh, I turned the other cheek, but
Yeah.
he's still from the beyond the grave saying like, here's the card that ended our relationship, and I'm sorry, So the father clearly had some sort of conscience. So I really love that scene where Cruz is just like, he gives the money, he doesn't accept the money, and you just see that like, oh, he just wants this guy. He doesn't need the money anymore because we saw in Vegas he's out of his money troubles. He doesn't even come up again.
Right.
So we know that he's now only in this to have this relationship with his brother.
A little bit with his ego as well.
Sure.
Because, like, if he's thinking clearly, he knows this isn't the right place for
He's
Raymond.
too close to it.
Yeah.
He's too emotionally involved.
And he also feels still that resentment of,
Yeah.
like, he tried to take this from me. Well, I'm going to know. He's going to live with me now.
Well, there's another resentment, which I love. So jumping to the very sort of the climax of the movie where he sits with the director, Barry Levinson, plays the doctor. I don't know his name, but he's a doctor sort of reviewing the case. And Bruner's in there. It doesn't really say all that much. And then it's Charlie and Raymond. It's sort of like it's almost like a courtroom scene. I mean, it's not a court. It's not, he says, I'm not a judge and jury, but there's a scene that has always broken my heart where it's kind of an extension of what we're talking about, where Cruz says, I had a father I barely knew, a mother I didn't know at all. A week ago, I found out I had a brother and all I want to do is be with him. It's like, why are you interfering? This is my family. And that just devastates me. It always has. And I believe it. And again, this is a credit to the characterization. What a fuck this guy was when we met him 2 hours earlier, and to go there to this place where I'm like, I completely believe this guy. And the antagonist, quote unquote, the Barry Levinson character, is really just being a good doctor. I mean, he does say like, okay, you made your point. You don't have to humiliate him.
Right. I love that he said that. To me, that was my favorite part of that scene.
Yeah.
Was that Charlie now is protective, and he used to be also digging against Raymond and being like humiliating him.
Like, which is it, Ray? What's it going to be, Ray?
All the things.
Yeah.
And now he's protective because now that's his family and you don't have to humiliate him. That's the line that gets me in that scene.
Yeah, all of it.
Because I'm still thinking of him as being a little bit of his ego getting in the way of actually objectively being like, what's actually best for my brother? Like, I felt like he held on just a little bit to those characteristics, and I'm not mad about it. It felt realistic to me.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to look. The two doctors are saying he needs to be in a facility like Walbrook. Maybe he always did.
Yeah.
Maybe the father's decision to put him there was the best thing. It just was cruel to deny his existence to his son. Because there was also, 100%. To keep going back to this, like, he could have told Charlie about it when he was like 10, 12. Right. He doesn't leave he leaves home. He's in 10th grade. He's 16 years old.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of time to tell Charlie, hey, you have a brother.
Right.
So that's a whole other movie. It's not a plot hole of like why. I mean, but the father did send him books and stuff. The father to Raymond, he says, from your loving father, he sees the book that Shakespeare plays or whatever. Really want to talk about briefly. So Barry Levinson plays the doctor in this. And he reminds me of Sidney Pollack, who's a director we've talked about a lot this season, who also was an actor in some of his own movies. Really good actor, like really good in this role, like very natural, very authoritative. Some actors some directors when they put themselves in their movies, you're like, eh. But and I think this was sort of a last minute thing. I don't know the story behind it, but I don't think this was like planned. I think for some reason he had to do it.
Interesting.
I don't know the backstory, but I don't think,
that.
because he's never he doesn't really pop up in a lot of his other movies. So, and this is like a big scene. Like he's playing like a big scene. Another thing that's interesting is the guy who plays Dr. Bruner, Gerald Molen, is actually the executive producer of this movie. And then a
Oh.
couple years later, he wins an Oscar for producing Schindler's List.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's not an actor either.
Huh.
So,
That's
but
really
it's
interesting.
interesting that so maybe it's interesting that he casts himself and this other guy who aren't actors, but they do have a very natural authority to them.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a lot of. I'm wondering how many non-actors we're seeing. Like, for instance, when they're in the waiting room with the old man who's talking about the Pony Express, that guy was just sort of there. And Barry
Yeah.
Levinson heard him talking about that and said, like, can you just do that
Amazing.
to Dustin Hoffman? And I'm just going to use it. So there's a lot of like
That's cool.
sort of verite things. So sticking with this scene, there's two things that I love. So apparently that incredible last shot where it's pushing in on them and they're in front of the window, Dustin Hoffman didn't tell Tom Cruise that he was going to lean his head against his.
Uh-huh.
That was a total surprise.
Oh, that's
He just decided
nice.
to do it. And we
Mhm.
know the things we've talked about already of just like, oh, now he can touch him.
What that means.
What
Yeah.
it pays off the horrible, not horrible, but like the sad ending to the dance scene.
Yeah.
Because it's Raymond initiating physical contact.
Yeah.
And then the scene that comes just after that, where he gets up and then he says CHARLIE, because the whole movie he's saying VERN.
Mhm.
You know, when he's distressed, he's saying, you know, oh, even that morning when the fire alarm goes off, the smoke
Yeah.
alarm, he's still saying Vern, Vern, Vern. And you see that it's like the only change the Hoffman character really makes, because this is
Mhm.
not about his arc, because he's
Right.
not a character who really can change.
Mhm.
And I thought that that's such a brilliant thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great. I didn't even really clock all that stuff.
The,
That's
the
cool.
Charlie thing, when he spells it out, is done off camera, which
Mhm.
makes me wonder maybe if it was added in later. It doesn't
Okay.
take away from it if it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So the movie ends at a train station, which makes sense because Raymond's not going to get on a flight.
Right.
There's something, I don't mean this in something romantic about it, even though this isn't
Mhm.
about romantic love. I
Yeah.
think there's also something very old school about it. I mean, I don't know if that Amtrak station's even still there, but even in
Mhm.
1988, you weren't seeing train stations in movies.
Yeah.
You really weren't. I mean, you were
Mhm.
seeing planes and cars and things. It was still, even in the 80s, to go cross country by train. I mean, people did it. They do it now, but it wasn't something you were seeing depicted in movies a lot. So I feel like that train station is very beautiful. Something about it just struck me as an old movie, even for its time. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
in '88, it struck me as like an old movie
Uh-huh.
thing. I'm almost like the 40s.
Right.
Again, it's not a romantic. It's not. But when the conductor's like all aboard, it just felt like
Mhm.
almost like the end of like Casablanca. Again, I don't
Right,
mean this as like a
yeah.
literal like, oh, this is romantic love.
Mhm.
But I really think this movie ends in a fascinating place because he says, I'm going to come see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they're going to be in each other's lives.
Right.
But it's really interesting that Tom Cruise is there by himself.
Mm.
I wonder, I wasn't missing Susanna because I like her exit from the movie. I think it's a
Yeah.
graceful exit. But I'm wondering, it was definitely a choice to have him there on his own.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I did think about like, okay, I think this character has grown. I like to think maybe he's going to marry, if not Suzanne or someone else. Maybe he wants to have kids. I don't know. I'm wondering if like this experience of being, and the continued experience of being with his brother is going to unlock some sort of paternal instinct in it. I don't know. Where do you think Charlie is at the end of this movie? I never asked this question, but since we're kind of,
I mean, he's definitely changed for the better. And
Yes.
I believe that they will have a relationship
mm,
and that it's going to be warm and it's going to, be funny and exasperating. And all the best parts of the film, I feel like, will continue to be in his life. Yeah. And I think like just letting him go, it's like when you love someone, you let them go.
Yeah, I got that
Which
vibe
was
too.
moving. Yeah. Yeah. So I felt like it was a nice place to end it.
yeah, it was very, yeah. All right, now let's move on to categorically denied. Before we get to Best Picture, let's see if Rain Man was worthy of the other 3 Oscars it won. So, Barry Levinson wins Best Director. He beats Charles Crichton for A Fish Called Wanda, Martin Scorsese for The Last Temptation of Christ, Alan Parker for Mississippi Burning, and Mike Nichols for Working Girl. So, of those movies that you've seen, that you remember, do you think that Barry Levinson should have won Best Director for this movie?
The only one I remember is Working Girl,
Okay.
which I really enjoyed for
Okay.
the Harrison Ford of it all.
Yeah.
He's so delicious in that. But I feel like I'd have no problem with Rain Man winning this. Yeah.
Yeah, I also will say I'm okay with this group. I've seen all 5 of these movies.
Oh, I've seen A Fish Called Wanda. Was that on the list?
Yeah, Charles Crichton for Fish
I
Called
do
Wanda.
like that movie.
Yes.
That movie's hilarious.
Yes.
But I'm not gunning for anybody else to have snatched that.
I'm okay with I've seen all these movies. I think these are all really good directors. I'm really good with Levinson winning this. I think this happens to be the best Barry Levinson movie. I've got a list on Letterboxd where I rank my top 10. This is number 1. I want to point out one thing here, which is funny because this came up in our Platoon episode, which was 2 years before this. This is Martin Scorsese's nominated for The Last Temptation of Christ. It's the only nomination that the movie gets.
Oh.
I thought it would have gotten 1 or 2 other things, and that happened 2 years earlier. David Lynch is nominated for Blue Velvet, and he's the only nomination. That's only happened a handful of times where the director is the sole nomination.
Interesting.
So I just thought that was interesting to point out.
Yeah.
It's not that it's an interesting statement to make. So Best Actor, Dustin Hoffman beats Gene Hackman for Mississippi Burning, Tom Hanks for Big, Edward James Olmos for Stand and Deliver, and Max von Sydow for Pell the Conqueror. So of those that you've seen that you remember, does Dustin Hoffman keep his Best Actor Oscar?
He 100% does.
Yeah.
No question to me.
Yeah, I say so too. I think this is one of his 2 or 3 very best performances. I think this is really immersive. I think he's incredible in this movie. I do think it's a shame that Cruise wasn't nominated among this, but he isn't. I had not seen the Max von Sydow performance. I've seen these other ones, which are all excellent. I do want to point out that I think that this is Gene Hackman's performance in Mississippi Burning might be number 2 for me.
I would say Stand and Deliver for me.
Yeah, another great performance. Yeah, and Tom Hanks is great and Big. That's a big movie for him.
He is. I think I still do a little bit have the bias of like comedy actors,
sure,
which is ridiculous.
No,
but like in my head, I'm like, oh well, it's not quite as serious.
Yeah,
so,
but it's interesting because this is in the middle of what I call paycheck Hackman. We're taking a lot of shitty movies, but I think that the smoke kind of cleared for this movie, and he just. This is Hackman's first Oscar nomination since he won for French Connection, and I think he's really great in that movie. But yeah, Hoffman is. I'm very happy handing it to him. Yeah. This is maybe his most famous performance. That's a whole other debate to have.
Right.
So it wins Best Original Screenplay. It beats Big, Bull Durham, A Fish Called Wanda, and Running on Empty. What say you?
Oh man. Okay.
This is a tough category.
I know. Okay. So full disclosure, I have met Ron Bass.
Have you really?
I've met him twice.
Who was one of the writers of this and won the Oscar.
Yes, he won the Oscar. He's a lovely man.
Okay.
I met him before the pandemic. My then writing partner and I had a rom-com coming out that was published in early pandemic times, and we met with him to talk about adapting it. He's such a gentleman. Really enjoyed talking with him. He talked a little bit about this with us, and
about this movie?
Yeah, just a tiny bit. I mean, just like about how they researched it and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I feel they did deserve it. I think that Bull Durham has a special place in my heart. I had the movie poster on my wall. I thought it was sexy. I thought it was just like Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner, I think, are just like so hot in this movie. I really love it. I've seen that one way more than I've seen Rain Man, but I don't begrudge. Like, I don't think they don't deserve this. I think that this was a deserved best original. Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you. I think that these are 5 really, really good scripts. And I think I love that A Fish Called Wanda was even included.
Right. It's
because
nice.
It's such a smart comedy.
Yes.
And I opened the show talking about how great comedies were. And Running on Empty, people don't know, was written by a woman named Naomi Foner, who's the mother of Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yes, I actually did know that.
Yes.
And was that River Phoenix's final role?
No, he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor this year. He dies 5 years later.
Okay.
It's actually, so no, this is like almost this is like pretty much he's really
peak.
cooking.
Yeah.
This is his only Oscar nomination. And Sidney Lumet directed it. But yeah, I would give it to Rain Man. I think it's it really does strike that balance for me of like, it's got a good plot. It's not a thriller, but I think the plot is actually really interesting. I think it's very character driven. I think it's just beautifully written. And I think this is, if I were to vote, I would vote for Rain Man. So do we bet 1 for bad or 2 for good? It's time to test our hindsight with the verdict. So Sarah, against The Accidental Tourist, Dangerous Liaisons, Mississippi Burning, and Working Girl, was Rain Man the best movie nominated this year? We're only talking about nominated. Of these 5, what say you?
Okay. So I'm torn.
Okay. You can pick more than one, by the way.
Well, I rewatched Dangerous Liaisons like the day after I rewatched Rain Man, just to
Okay.
have them like back to back.
No, I rewatched all these movies recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
And
they're all fresh.
from like my writing perspective,
Mm.
I look at Dangerous Liaisons, and you can see let the record state that I am showing Ed a notebook where I have written some quotes from Dangerous Liaisons, and that was only from the first 15 minutes,
You want to
where
do
I
any
was
here?
already staggered by the cleverness. But that was adapted from
And
a
it wins
stage
adapted
play
screenplay,
and a
by the
novel,
way.
and that's why I'm gonna say yes, Rain Man deserved to get Best Picture, because what I love about Dangerous Liaisons is the script, and it wins for that.
Okay.
But part of me was like, I prefer Dangerous Liaisons. Like, if I'm going to watch a movie,
Sure.
I would more likely be watching that one. And John Malkovich he's like
Fantastic.
the height of his powers.
Yes.
He's so charming and charismatic
Yeah.
and like, what's his name? Byron-esque. Like, he's just very whatever. And
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer, again, is in that. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I sob at the end.
Yeah.
Like, and so that is more my wheelhouse.
Right.
But I'm so glad that Rain Man won Best Picture, and I think it was the one that should have won, like, if
Okay.
I go back. But I'm glad that Dangerous Liaisons got the best screenplay for the best adapted. So I
it won
kind of
something
won.
else.
I win in both ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the other screenplay category. I think it won a couple things. I don't have that in front of me, but I think it won at least one other thing. And
it's lush. It's the French in the 1760s or something, like just pre-revolutionary.
Yeah.
And it's great. Yeah, the dialogue is killer in that, and the female characters are killer in that. So.
Yeah. So for me, this is a really great collection of movies. I want to say all 5 of these movies are really, really strong.
Mhm.
I think what all 5 of these movies have in common is that they're all really adult and they're really smart,
Mhm.
and none of them crumble under the weight of their own miserability like they could.
Yeah.
I mean, something like Mississippi Burning could have just been miserable because, I mean, it's about racial violence, and it's probably the most intense of these 5 movies. And I think for me, Rain Man is the best one because it's maybe the one I spent the most time with.
Yeah.
And I just think, I mean, I've talked on and on about how much I love this movie. I just think that it's doing so much, and it's doing it with a really light hand.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a movie that's so resonant. And I would encourage people to see all 5 of these movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Working Girl is the lightest of this bunch.
Yes,
I mean,
for
it's very
sure.
smart and saying things.
It's a lot of fun. It just doesn't have the depth.
It doesn't have the depth. It's a light
Yeah.
movie, and it's great that they included it.
Yes.
I do think that Tourist, Liaisons, and Mississippi are all to varying degrees. I mean, Liaisons is very intense, but very fun, like Sarah
Mhm.
says. It's very just like it's a sexy movie.
Yeah.
Mississippi Burning is just very, very intense. You can see a very young Frances McDormand, her first Oscar-nominated performance. You
Yeah.
can see her kind of like have a lot of chemistry with Gene Hackman. Accidental Tourist is a movie I really loved. You know that one? With William Hurt and Gina Davis?
Vaguely. I don't remember it super well.
You would love it.
Okay.
Gina Davis wins the Oscar for supporting
Yeah.
actress. It's Lawrence Kasdan. Really great movie. But yeah, Rain Man to me is really what I want out of a Best Picture winner.
Yeah.
And that it's every time I remember that it wins, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. You know?
Yes.
Because I feel like it is a drama, but it has comedy in it. And it has, again, Barry Levinson just does it with such a light hand. And the
Mhm.
2 performances are just incredible.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree.
think I've talked about how it's funny because like Tom Cruise's career used to be really kind of distinguished. Like Color
Yeah.
of Money starts it because it's Paul Newman and Scorsese, and then this, and then Born on the 4th of July, and A Few Good Men. Like it was a career where he was like
Yeah.
kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio now.
It was like every movie he was in was a good movie.
Was good
Yeah.
and with really good directors.
Mhm.
And I disappointed that it sort of devolved to like a lot of stunt work. But he is
Yeah.
in Inarritu's new movie, so we'll see how that goes. It seems we
Mhm.
might be getting kind of a
Mm-hmm.
so let me ask you this, Sarah. What was the best movie of 1988, period, whether it was nominated or not?
Oh.
Or movies. You don't have
I
to pick just one.
mean, I have my little thesis that I want to give about Oliver and Company, which was the Disney animated film that came out in 1988.
Okay.
Because in some ways, I think that movie changed the trajectory of all of Disney for the next decade, if not beyond.
Really?
So basically, in the early 80s, Disney animation was struggling.
Yeah.
They had 3 super dark, super bizarre movies come out. Fox and the Hound,
Mm.
The Black Cauldron,
Yeah.
And the third one was The Rescuers. There's no musical numbers. There's no like lighthearted song. And these three movies were just bleak. And Tim Burton was on staff as a concept artist for the Black Cauldron, and his stuff was so dark he like never worked at Disney again. Like
Oh,
that was
wow.
the end of that. He was an animator there, and Black Cauldron broke it, and it almost broke the entire Disney animation machine
Wow.
because it was such a like colossal, crazy like yeah, it was a major box office bomb. It was a critical failure. It said leading executives to consider shutting down the animation studio entirely due to its massive budget overruns and troubled production.
Wow.
Oh, maybe it wasn't The Rescuers. It was The Great Mouse Detective. So
Okay.
The Great Mouse Detective was the third in that trio.
Okay.
And that brings us to 1986. Now we have Don Bluth's American Tail come out.
Sure.
And that's huge, and it just annihilates all Disney's animated stuff of that decade.
Right.
And then we have, is it Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner come into Disney?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, what do we do? Do we keep the animated wing? Do we just get rid of it?
Yeah.
Do we do like one last attempt to like beat American Tail? And they decided to do Oliver and Company, which was based very, very loosely on Charles Dickens'
Yeah.
Oliver. The important thing about this movie is that they hired Billy Joel and Bette Midler to do the voices and also to do the songs.
Uh-huh.
And because of the kind of like Broadway version with the music and the humor and like the fast-paced sort of more contemporary vibe and the pop soundtrack, and I guess Howard Ashman was involved in it,
Right.
and the voice casting, now they're doing like A-list people. I think like Cheech Marin was also in it. Joey Lawrence, I think, was the cat. It set the blueprint for the next 10 years, starting with The Little Mermaid.
Right.
So Oliver and Company did quite well. People don't remember it that much, but it actually did quite well in 1988, even though it was competing against Land Against Time and Who
Yeah.
Framed Roger Rabbit. But it did well, and so it set the blueprint. And then there was like a Disney Renaissance after that. It was from Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast,
Yeah.
Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan.
Yeah.
And they all followed the formula that Oliver and Company set.
Right.
And it doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. I also, so I'm in 6th grade. I'm seeing it at our little like dinky local theater. And one of my best friends at the time also was obsessed with it. So we started a fan club. It was just the two of us.
Oh my God.
And we would, listen to the soundtrack and draw pictures, and we just couldn't wait for it to come out on video, which of course didn't happen for like 20 years or
Yeah.
30 years because no
Especially
one
with-
cared about it.
Especially
and-
Disney, though. They would vault stuff even
Oh yeah,
then.
they would vault stuff. And I think I went to a Comic-Con in like upstate New York, or maybe it was in Chicago, where I got a bootlegged Oliver and Company. And that was huge for me because I hadn't seen it since 1988.
Is
when
it on
first
Disney
came
Plus
out.
now? Is it to be
I
seen?
think it is. And
Okay.
I have it on Blu-ray because I wanted my son to see it. And
Yeah.
for a while, he loved it. Like,
Right.
he really enjoyed it. And the music is catchy. It's like Billy Joel in the 80s. It's very, and
Yeah.
he's in New York. And it's like, it's
Yeah.
hilarious. There's a dog. He does the voice of the dog, the Dodger, So I think that was, in a way, one of the most important things that could have happened to Disney because it saved the animation studio. It set the standard and the precedent for all the biggest Disney productions basically to come out of that. And it's hilarious to me that that is what saved it and that it almost completely was done with animation.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know that I know this movie. It rings a distant bell. My misunderstanding I'm now learning is that Little Mermaid is what brought it back. I didn't know that there was a movie before that. I'm not saying that like they're putting out a different legend. I just think my
No,
understanding was just
that
completely wrong.
Was completely what everyone thought because it was
Okay.
like, oh, Little Mermaid saved it. And it's like, but they only were able to do Little Mermaid
Off
because
the back of this other
yeah,
movie.
mhm.
That's fascinating.
I know.
You know that
I know.
yeah, that's great. I don't know that movie and I still have little kids, so I might
Yeah.
try and show it to
And
them.
it was like a run of almost every year. It also changed it to do like the annual releases. It was the first Disney movie to extensively use computer animation for vehicles, cityscapes, and complex scenes.
Wow.
There's a subway chase. Bette Midler's dog character does this descent down a spiral staircase, and it's very like
Wow.
Hitchcockian. The fast-paced contemporary vibe. The 80s pop culture set the stage for Aladdin and Hercules and things like that. It was the first Disney musical since The Jungle Book in 1967. So it really changed everything. It established the musical structure essential to the Disney Renaissance. Yeah.
That's a great choice. Not one I would have expected. I love
Sure.
that.
Yay.
So
Gotta shout it out.
absolutely, that's what this show's all about. And to talk about hindsighting, something I've never heard of, and doesn't enjoy the reputation that it should, according to you. So that's a perfect thing for this show. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Sure.
My best movie of the year is Die Hard. So Martin Scorsese talks about movies being pre-Brando and post-Brando, and Die Hard is the same thing. It's the whole cinema is pre-Die Hard and post-Die Hard. So I think that Bruce Willis kind of obfuscated his own impact here with the sequels and countless bland action movies that he would do after. But what was really seismic about Die Hard, and I think you're old enough to remember also, is that this was really a regular guy in this. I mean, yeah, he was like in decent shape, but he wasn't like huge
No,
or
he
ripped.
wasn't jacked.
He wasn't jacked. He was like in pretty good shape, like sort of workman-like shape. And he was really scared. Like this was a character who was scared of what he was going through. And I also liked that he was a stubborn asshole who was really insensitive to his wife. He wasn't like a perfect person. I think that's something else that people don't remember about this movie. I think today John McClane would be carved out of stone, and his wife would be killed if she weren't dead already.
Right.
She'd have no, and I think that Bruce Willis, was very famous on TV at this point for being like this wise ass. And I think that he brings that to this. And I think that kind of keeps I think that's, John McClane's a great character.
Mm-hmm.
To his credit, Bruce Willis really lobbied for Bonnie Bedelia to play his wife. And I think that she brings a real maturity to
Mm-hmm.
this. And she's much older than him. They look about the same age, but she's almost 10 years older.
Oh, cool.
And I think it's
That's
really
rare.
cool that he, wanted like a real woman to be his wife.
Yeah.
And I think that she's such a sort of undersung part of this. Not just for her role in the plot, but just I think that Holly McClane's really tough in her own way. Like she doesn't punch anybody out, but she's, a very strong presence. And you see, I understand why these two are together. And yeah, their relationship has a really like lived in feel to it that I think is just, you only get that with great casting. This is really this is probably the best directed action movie ever. John McTiernan, the director, does such a great job with establishing the geography. And we're talking about a skyscraper. We understand every floor. We understand how we get there. We know where every bullet goes. And I think it's only a couple years after this that like great action directing is sort of marginalized. One thing I got to talk about, I'm not a big fan of studio notes, but the studio note led to what might be my favorite scene in this whole movie.
Okay.
So there was a studio note that said they really wanted McClane and Gruber to meet before the end. And they're like, well, if these guys are face to face, they're just going to shoot each other and the movie's going to be over. And they were rewriting this movie a lot on the set.
Oh my gosh.
And Stephen E. D'Souza, who was at that point the writer on it, heard Alan Rickman do his American accent for Bonnie Bedelia. And he was like, that's it. They never see each other. Hans can do an American accent. And I think that's like the smartest thing I've ever seen in an action movie.
I love when things come together organically because they're working through the logistics. It's like when things have a lower budget, they have to be clever about how they solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great example of that. And I mean, I've gone too long without talking about Alan Rickman.
I was just going to say.
So this is Alan Rickman's first movie
so good.
ever.
Yeah.
And
incredible.
He had done some TV stuff. He's like 41 years old too. I mean, he's not
his
old.
Voice, like his voice is just
so I have to
perfect.
I have to credit, at least absent of any other knowledge, the casting director, Jackie Birch. We just saw the first casting Oscar get handed out.
Yay!
And I think that this should have won a casting Oscar for the reasons I've said. But Alan Rickman, I don't think I have to do too hard to sell here. All respect to Anthony Hopkins and Heath Ledger and John Malkovich and Terrence Stamp. Alan Rickman is the best movie villain of all time. Hans Gruber is the best movie villain of all time, hands down. I don't think that's a take that I would ever have attacked. I think that usually I say like great old movies wouldn't get nominated for an Oscar today. I think that Alan Rickman would actually win an Oscar today.
Yeah.
We've just seen two villainous performances get nominated Sunday night. If you think about Javier Bardem and Heath Ledger and Christoph Waltz and Joe Pesci just a couple years later, I think that there's a great tradition of honoring just loathsome villains. and I think he would actually do better. This is the one thing about this movie that I think would be better if it came out today, is
Ah.
that I think that Rippin would win an Oscar. It probably wouldn't be the same movie though. Yeah, so this is just a movie we're never going to see again.
Mhm.
If you look at even the Die Hard franchise,
Yeah.
the general declining quality, the gradual declining quality of those sequels.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Die Hard is Rain Man's great, and I'm glad it won the Oscar, but Die Hard is a seismic event, and
Yeah.
the older I get, and the more I've learned about like how movies are made, I'm even more impressed with it.
Yeah.
And Die Hard, it's a weird thing to say about a movie where a guy wears a wife beater, is a class act.
It
It's
is, yeah.
elegant, and Alan Rickman's 95% of the reason why.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just great.
Is it a Christmas movie?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I
People have made it one.
think it's I mean, it does take place on Christmas
Got
Eve.
the tradition now.
Well,
but people
McTiernan
pull
had
it
this
up.
great take on it. Is that the original conception is that they were terrorists, and
Mhm.
his thing was, well, that's boring. Let's make them thieves posing as terrorists, which is something as a kid went right over my head.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what's so clever about this, is that
Yeah.
Hans is just a fucking thief.
Right.
And it's such a great thing. But his take on it was that it's a Midsummer Night's Dream. It's a night of a
Ah.
festival, and these two lovers are separated.
Oh, cool.
And this is a guy bringing all this to like a movie where, again, the guy's wearing a wife
I
beater
feel like I
and
need to
saying
go home and
motherfucker. Yeah.
rewatch this right now.
Yeah, it's
You've convinced me.
it's always been a liked movie, but I just
Yeah.
don't know that it even now has the respect of like, this movie's actually elegantly done.
Yeah.
It's actually an elegant movie, despite the fact that the most famous line from it has the words motherfucker in it.
No, but that adds to its appeal in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's a great hero and a great villain, and a lot of great antagonists. Even beneath Alexander Goodenough's a great thug.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of, and there's like two asshole characters who are just great antagonists. So yeah,
Yeah.
not a hot take, but yeah, to me, Die Hard is the best movie of 1988, a year filled with them.
Love it.
So our next category is Spotlight, where we can spotlight something from any movie, like a performance, cinematography, score, a stunt sequence, whatever popped for us for any movie or movies this year. So Sarah, what do you want to spotlight?
All
Or what
right.
things do you want to spotlight?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to give some of my quotes from Dangerous Liaisons.
Love it.
So I have not seen the stage play. I have not read the book. I've only seen this movie.
That's fine.
Or as the youngsters call it, Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
Which shockingly, the plot is identical.
No, Cruel
they
Intentions
they
is
shockingly just like moved it to New York City teenagers.
Modern
and like,
day.
yeah. I mean, they changed a couple of things, but like as I was watching it, I was like, wow, yeah, they just basically took that and like overlaid it. But the original, we have a great cast. We have John Malkovich, we have Michelle Pfeiffer, we have Uma Thurman, one of her first roles, I think. Keanu Reeves is slightly out of place.
Yeah.
But he's not terrible or anything like
he's-
that.
he's
like
not
he's
toxic.
fine.
He's playing
you
kind
know?
of a dumb
Yeah.
character. Not that Keanu Reeves is dumb,
No, no,
but
no.
he's playing a guy who's sort of a guy who's out of his league. So I
Right.
think he's appropriately cast.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
just
and Glenn Close, of course.
Of course.
Yes. But like, yeah, I mean, like the quotes. So something I love in screenplays is when a character hasn't really entered the room yet and other characters talk about them so that your anticipation is high and you're like, oh shit, when's this guy going to show up? Like everyone's talking about him and the things they're saying are like disturbing or crazy or intriguing.
Right.
So the ladies of France are sitting around in their parlor and John Malkovich's character is about to show up. And they're like, you receive him? Well, you do too. Okay, well, oh, he's here. Okay.
Right.
And before he walks in the room, they're explaining to Uma Thurman's character, like, well, what's the deal with him? And when I think it's Swoosie Kurt's character maybe says, Valmont never opens his mouth without first calculating what damage he can do. And so you're terrified. You're like, oh my God, like, what is this guy going to say? Why is he like that? What is he going to do? Why does he want to damage people with his words? Like, so now you're like, I can't trust anything that comes out of this guy's mouth. And kind of like with Rain Man, you have Tom Cruise go from like 100% dick to like this huge evolution by the end. Valmont goes through this thing where he's like destroying people's lives for sport.
Absolutely.
And then by the end, he's like sobbing and devastated that he's never done a good thing in his life. And it works. And I fall apart at the end every time.
It doesn't have the redemption that the Cruise character does.
No, it doesn't get the redemption, although there's a tiny bit at the end where, you know, he does send the message along to Michelle Pfeiffer's character, who he did genuinely fall in love with, but he was so petrified of being thought of as a fool that his pride wouldn't allow him to just accept that people might talk about me or people might think I'm acting ridiculously. He couldn't do that.
Right.
The point at the end is, I think Glenn Close's character says, "Oh, you've proved it. Happiness and vanity cannot coexist.
Yeah.
And if you had just been willing to let people talk or think that you were acting foolish, you could have actually had love, and you could have had this woman who did love you." And so it's devastating,
Yeah.
but it's so good. And
Yes.
and the dialogue is like that the whole time.
Yeah.
There's this one of the evil things that he does is seduce Uma Thurman's character just to get vengeance on her mom for writing a letter warning another woman about how awful he is.
Yes.
So he seduces her like nothing. Like it barely causes him any problems whatsoever. And he's waiting for Glenn Close to like say, "Hey, good job." But she goes, "One does not applaud the tenor for clearing his throat." And it's just like killer, like all
Yeah.
these lines, like the whole time I'm watching it and I'm just melting at this dialogue. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things I'd like to highlight is just how clever it is, how much is packed into these sentences, how each word is just designed either to damage or sting you. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, worth repeating that Christopher Hampton wins the Best Adapted Screenplay
Yes.
Oscar.
Yes.
Which is nice. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that movie's really, really fascinating. And one thing I want to shout out, the performances are all great. I love that Malkovich is cast in that role because
Yeah.
he's not traditionally handsome.
Right.
And
But he's seductive.
He's
He's
seductive.
so seductive.
And I think a lesser movie would want to cast whoever the best looking person is.
And that would have missed the point because it's like he's so devious
Yeah.
in the way that he goes about undermining people.
Yeah,
He
so-
wants them to betray everything that's most important to them just for his amusement.
Yeah.
And it's like, but he gives to the woman that he's pretending to be in love with and then does actually fall in love with, which is Michelle Pfeiffer. He says, "It's not that I want to have you. All I want is to deserve you."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, how do you
Yeah.
can't respond to that. If someone says that to you,
Yeah.
you're going to be thinking about that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting movie.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so much great dialogue in there. You probably didn't even get half of it.
Oh, I
you
know. I had to stop because I was just
Yeah.
wanting to watch it.
I
but
like no
could
one's
have
ever
just
no one's
paused
ever spotlighted dialogue before, which I love.
Yay.
So I love that. Okay. So like Rain Man, I want to spotlight two duets of unlikely pairings that really worked for me, and these are two duets that don't seem to have any business to work at all. Meaning these are two sets of two people who I would think should be in a movie together, but it totally works.
Twins. No, just kidding.
Well, Twins is the same year. You know what?
It was.
That is 88. Not picking Twins, but that is a movie I like. So my first is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, yes.
So Michael Caine and Steve Martin. So Michael Caine has said that this is the most fun he's had making a movie, and that is so clear watching it. He plays a straight man, but I think this is really one of his best performances in a career filled with them. I think sort of like Gene Hackman, this is like in the middle of Paycheck Caine, but every now and again the smoke would clear and, a really good movie would come out of it. Hannah and Her Sisters being one of the other ones, because he wins Best Supporting Actor for that. But again, he's like a really slick con man, but you do see his humanity and decency grow throughout this movie. Not unlike Tom Cruise in Rain Man, but this guy's actually a con man. This guy's actually grifting women out of money. And I think that Michael Caine, his performance kind of tethers this to reality. And I think that makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin did this in between Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Parenthood. And that's such a strong run. This is my favorite Steve Martin performance.
Oh, great.
And my favorite Steve Martin movie.
Mhm.
Because what he's doing, and Caine maybe also, is that Steve Martin is improvising a lot, but this movie is so tightly plotted. This is my favorite con artist movie of
Mhm.
all time. And so obviously it's got to be very tightly plotted. I'm obviously not going to talk about the plot too much, so I don't want to give it away. But again, Steve Martin and Michael Caine, they're opposites in the movie. They're playing two people who should have no interaction. Like Michael Caine, is this very elegant con artist. He looks like David Niven. And Steve Martin is just such like a fucking flake.
Yeah.
But he is effective at his job. And,
Yeah.
and the whole movie is just like, why do I have to deal with this guy? Like I live on the French Riviera. I'm conning millionaires. This guy's like some punk from America. So that tension kind of fuels the whole movie. And it's funny,
Mhm.
And so I think that's just, so anyway, the movie's great, but I think what makes it great is this central performance. Kind of like Rain Man, the movie kind of lives and falls under like these two characters who, are opposites, and This is very tonally a very different movie. The other movie, which has a very similar dynamic, is Midnight Run with Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro. So by the 2000s, Robert De Niro was doing a lot of very broad comedies that I just didn't think were very funny. I mean, or they were just sort of funny. I think this is the best comedy that De Niro's ever done because he's playing a character that he would play in a serious movie, and he's playing it seriously. This is a character, if I were to tell you the plot of Midnight Run, it doesn't necessarily sound like a comedy. He's playing a guy who's an ex-cop. He's a bounty hunter. He lives a very sort of dangerous life. That sounds like a serious movie. And there are serious aspects to Midnight Run, but he's very funny in this movie because he's not playing the comedy. He's playing the reality. There's a scene in this movie where De Niro comes in contact with his daughter who he hasn't seen in 10 years. And I won't say it's heavy, but she tries to give him money and he says no. And the way he says no is just heartbreaking. He just says, I can't. And that's kind of the only serious thing in this movie, but it's just this reminder of like, wow, Robert De Niro really is one of our greats. It's a reminder of like, because in this movie, he's funny, again, playing a straight man. This is the best role Charles Grodin has ever had. He's a very specific flavor, but he's never been given a role where he's had this much to do. And again, these are two guys who probably shouldn't be in a movie together because Charles Grodin is just again, he's a good actor, but he's always kind of playing a persona, kind of like Robert Downey Jr. or Sam Rockwell. And this persona fits this movie perfectly. And again, like Rain Man, this is like a guy who's annoying our protagonist. And these guys are going cross country. And Martin Brest, the director of this, was going to do Rain Man. So I think some of the Rain Man DNA made it into this movie. It's the same thing. It's two guys going from trying to get to LA. This is different in that there's like guys trying to kill them and stuff, but it's the same thing. It's two guys in a car and a train and the character in this refuses to fly, which is why they have to go by car or by train. This is a scene played very differently where this character refuses to fly because he's afraid. Now, he's not a savant like the Dustin Hoffman character, but just thinking about it, these two movies are kind of strange bedfellows in that way, and they're the same year. And yeah, Charles Grodin is being very improvised a lot, and he gets a lot of great reactions from De Niro, but again, this is another tightly plotted movie. Yeah, and again, I mentioned the Martin Brest thing. So, I don't know, I think like if we had more movies like Rain Man and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Midnight Run, where it's just two people, we've just focused on two people, we'd be in better shape. So Sarah, where can people find you if they want to find you? Anything you want to promote? I know you have a new book. Can you tell people all about that?
Absolutely. So I've started an ambitious project. It's going to be a 9-book cozy mystery series. The first book is out now, along with a free prequel. It's called One is the Deadliest Number, and it's about a woman who moves to town and teaches a class on the Enneagram personality types. She's kind of like a Miss Marple figure out of Agatha Christie, where she uses her knowledge of human nature to solve crimes. And it's got kind of a Only Murders in the Building, Thursday Murder Club vibe. It's like different generations working together. And those are sort of lighthearted comedy. They meet at a cat cafe, and so it's Pers and Personality Types is the name of the series. You can find it at persandpersonalitytypes.com. I'm hard at work on book 2. You can also just find me at Sarah Skilton, S-A-R-A-H, Skilton.com, for my other books, which have more of a Hollywood bent to them.
You can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd. Both of them are Edward Clow. I think I mentioned this earlier. So if you go on Letterboxd, when this airs, I will have my 1988 list where I've ranked these movies. And we've discussed between the two of us most of them, but there's a lot we haven't discussed, and you can just kind of check them out. I think this is a great year, and so definitely check that out. If you go on Vimeo, you can see some short films I've done. If you have any questions that you want to send in, you can send it to hindsightingquestions@gmail.com. If I get enough of those, I'll do a mailbag episode. Sarah, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation.
This was absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
That's our show. Next episode, Dan Ewan and I discuss the best picture of 1989, Driving Miss Daisy. Till then, looking forward to looking back.